Hello, YouTube, and welcome into Blackwood Hall. We are coming to you live from the campus of Longwood University here on Spring Research Day. We're getting ready here for a full day of research presentations, both in stream, and if we cut to the camera down below, you could see them getting set up for the poster presentations that are happening simultaneously here. I am your host for today's program, Dr. Ryan Stouffer, joined as always by my co-host, far prettier, but far less likely to survive a zombie apocalypse, as voted on by COMM students, Dr. Hosterman here. We will be your MCs for the event. Dr. Hosterman, you want to tell them a little about what we'll be watching today?
Thank you. Thank you for joining us in Blackwell Hall. We will be talking about research that these students have been conducting the entire semester long. They've been working on these projects. They chose it. They did their research through it. They came up with conclusions, all based on two different methods. My students ended up doing the qualitative method, where they interviewed 12 different students on the same topic, looked for different themes, correlated all of that. Oops, I used a quantitative term. And came up and drew some conclusions. Dr. Stouffer, what did your students do?
My students did quantitative research here. So they did a survey where they surveyed about 100 participants here, and we're looking for large communication patterns. Do you want to understand a little bit more what a lot of people are doing with their chosen communication topic here? So our methods may be slightly different here, but all in all, what we're going to present today is going to be very similar among the two groups. The other thing we want to make sure we shout out today is the fully student-produced broadcast that you're going to witness here. So we cut to the behind-the-scenes camera here. You can see a few students there hard at work making us look good. We will have a shift change here in the middle of the afternoon, so if it looks better, I don't want to make any blames, but no, again, I'm very proud of being able to bring these two culminating experiences together. Live original undergraduate research combined with a fully student-produced live stream. So set in. We'll have a few behind-the-scenes look. We'll talk to a few people from other majors here later on. But stay tuned. Braden and Ryan are off to get us started.
You cashed in on my promises. You know I'm too generous. Now I've learned to never help you out.
I'll be My name is Ryan Barbour, and this is my partner, Braden Hamilton. And today we're going to be talking about NFL fans' perceptions of the NFL showing games on paid-for streaming services. So for our research topic, as passionate NFL fans, we were curious to see what other NFL fans thought about the NFL showing their games on subscription-based streaming services. So our study is unique because we were able to talk about streaming services and money through the data we collected to share with you guys today. And in the previous studies that we found in our literature review, they talked about streaming services and money, but not both at the same time. In terms of the theory that we use social identity theory. And this talked about how fans align more with their team when their team performs well, and when they sort of push back from their team when their team performs poorly throughout the season. For our research, we had 3 hypotheses. Our first hypothesis was NFL fans who are geographically located further away from their NFL team are more likely to purchase subscription-based streaming services to watch games. Our second hypothesis was the bigger the fan, the more likely they are to spend money on team-related goods. And our third hypothesis is NFL fans are more likely to watch NFL games on TV rather than in person. When it comes to our methodology, we created a survey that was about 3 to 5 minutes to complete. We had over 600 survey responses. However, we were able to knock that number down to 343. Of those responses, 81% were male, and 89% were white. When it comes to our results, our first hypothesis regarding geographic location was not significant, and we think this is because of illegal streaming services, and a majority of our respondents were younger population. Our second hypothesis regarding willingness to purchase team goods was significant, and our third hypothesis regarding likelihood to watch games on TV rather than in person was also significant, and we think this is because it's too expensive to go to games in person nowadays. Now off to Braden to talk about our constructs.
So for our research, we focused on 4 main constructs, those being geographical location, streaming services, and economic status, and then fandom. So for our first hypothesis, we focused on geographical location and streaming services, with that hypothesis being NFL fans that are geographically located away from their NFL teams are more likely to purchase streaming-based subscriptions to watch NFL games. The way we described streaming services for our study is where viewers can purchase access to watch NFL games, with an example question being, how much money do you or your family spend on streaming services a month? Then our explanation of geographical location is fans' proximity to their NFL team. Next, we will look at our other two constructs, those being economic status and fandom. Our connecting hypothesis for those 2 constructs is the bigger the NFL fan, the more willing they are to spend money on team-related goods. The way we described economic status is how much money a fan is willing to spend on goods related to their team, with an example question from our survey being, how much money do you spend a year on team merchandise? Then our explanation for fandom related to our study is a community of people who are passionate about a particular topic, which in our case is NFL. Next, we will take a look at some of our limitations. Our first limitation is related to our short answer question. We only had 1 short answer question on our survey, which made us rely on it heavily. With the large amount of responses we had over 683, so there was a lot of tedious work going through each response and checking the validity of each one. Our second limitation is a lack of quality in responses. This relates to our short answer question directly, as our biggest issues was checking the validation of each response, and then also people simply not completing our survey to the end. Our third limitation comes from respondents being outside of the United States. We wanted to focus directly on fans of the NFL inside the US because we thought that it would be a better fit for our study. But after posting our survey on many Reddit pages, we ended up getting a lot of out-of-country responses, as you can't hone in on a specific region. We ended up getting responses as far as Thailand and New Zealand that we eventually had to get rid of. Now we will discuss ideas for possible future research. Our first idea for future research is to strive for a more diverse sample. At our final count, we had 279 male respondents and only 52 female respondents. And out of all of those respondents, 89% were white. So in the future, we would try to strengthen our results by diversifying. Our second idea for future research is to make stricter rules as to who all could take our survey. Like I mentioned earlier, we want to focus on United States fans that are fans of the NFL in the US, but we ended up getting a lot of out-of-country respondents. So in the future, we would explicitly state that we only want responses from fans in the US. Our third idea for future research is to discuss illegal streaming. Illegal streaming came up several times in the comment section on our Reddit posts, proving that it is a relatively common occurrence among NFL fans. So if we were to extend the study, we would make sure to take into account illegal streaming. Now I'll turn the floor back to Ryan to finish us off.
So after we completed our research, we came with two takeaways. Our first takeaway was that our first hypothesis regarding geographic location was not supported, and we think this is because there's more than just geographic locations that go into this hypothesis, like illegal streaming. A lot of people would much rather stream football games illegally for free than pay for them. And our last key takeaway is that a majority of the respondents that we got watch 13 or more out of the 17 regular season NFL games, but they don't attend games in person. And we think this is because it's too expensive to go to games nowadays for many reasons, such as if your team is good, the tickets are going to be more expensive, or if you live further away from your NFL team, you have to pay more money to go and travel to go see your team play. But that wraps up our research for this semester. Thank you guys for tuning in, and we appreciate your time.
My name is Hansen. Today I'm going to be talking about the generational perception of euthanasia and assisted suicide. My topic discusses the different types of generations and how they perceive euthanasia and assisted suicide. The reason I chose this type of research and this topic is because with all the types of media and technology, including podcasts, social media, and the suicide pod, it is bringing this conversation back into being relevant. The theory that I used for my research is social judgment theory, which is a communication theory revolving around how one perceives a persuasive argument and with their foundation of beliefs they currently have. With my hypotheses, the one that was the most significant was my H one. This is because, for one, I predicted the complete opposite of what actually happened, and I believe this is because the older generation, which includes Gen X and Boomers, they are actually more frequently talking about death, and they're in situations revolving around death. And then for my methodology, I did a survey that included 15 questions, which you can see 2 of them listed below that I will reference later. And my participants, yes, I asked about gender, but my main focus was when they were born. And as you can see, my biggest population were boomers. My lowest population was Gen Z, and I'll get into why that was later on. When it came to my constructs, the ethical perception of euthanasia was a huge one. Euthanasia has had a negative impact for years, and a perception that people do not want to agree with. So like I showed in my H1, the older generations actually agreed with this perspective of euthanasia. Then going on to the emotional responses of end-of-life decisions, they talked about how currently we live in a world that a lot of decision-making is based off of emotions. And so as I asked in my survey and people responded with, you could see how emotions made a play with their perspective and their decisions based on euthanasia. Now, religion has always been a huge topic revolving euthanasia because the Catholic Church actually formed this foundation of belief against euthanasia and highly opposed of it. And as you can see with my PhH1, that religion still is a huge part of why euthanasia is looked and frowned upon. Now, for perceived autonomy and decision-making, that was another controversial topic within my controversial topic. Most survey respondents actually showed that healthcare providers should actually be the ones making the decision whether or not an individual should euthanize themselves or have assisted suicide as an option. Now, when it came to my limitations, one of the bigger ones was being the fact that I could only sample half of Gen Z. This is because that generation, a lot of them are under the age of 18, and so it really shortened that population. Secondly, choosing a controversial topic was a huge limitation for me. A lot of people gave me a lot of negative feedback that I couldn't use for my results. And also the fact of when people saw the topic I chose, they decided not to take the survey because they didn't want to give their input. And then lastly, I was only able to survey for 24 hours, which really limited the amount of respondents that I got and people I could reach out to take my survey. Now, if I wanted to go further with this research, one direction I possibly would take was the perceptions within non-religion, Christian religions and Christian religions, and the differences they have on the perception of euthanasia. Second route I would like to go would be how distinct historical events have on one's perspective of euthanasia and assisted suicide. And then lastly, through this research, I saw a lot of people actually didn't understand the difference between assisted suicide and euthanasia. And I think diving in and really breaking that apart would be a great way to go on to the second step of this. Now, in conclusion of my summary, the older generation, which includes Gen X and boomers, are more accepting towards euthanasia and assisted suicide. And lastly, religion is still a huge influence into one's perspective regarding euthanasia and assisted suicide, and I'm pretty sure that's going to be the same way for a long time. Thank you so much.
You can have it all, watch me rip it off. I'll admit it, you got me feeling hella loved. Even when it's going down, know that we gon' live it up. Young shot caller, always been a baller. Know that you the one, I can feel it in my heart. Yeah, I won't stop charging, we going come harder. I can see you and I, way beyond the stars, girl. I can never ever find the right words, and there's no way this is real life. There's no telling you're the right girl, so I can only say that it feels right. It feels right. It feels right. It feels right. It feels right.
Braden and Ryan here. Gentlemen, what was it like to kick off the day?
I'm tired, but that's okay. You can gain sleep back. No, you can't, but it's okay. It wasn't that bad.
What about for you, Ryan?
I'm excited. I'm glad we got to wake up early and get this presentation done with and have the rest of the day to do other work.
Exactly. So stay tuned. We'll get some more behind the scenes look here. We'll let these guys go take a nap and back up with our next presentation soon.
Good morning. Today our research is on TikTok's impact on user trust and experience. I'm Juliet.
I'm Brandon. TikTok's effect on consumers is different. How TikTok affects positively and negatively. TikTok has influenced consumer behavior by driving impulsive purchases through viral trends, personal content, and influencer advertising. For our research question is, how is TikTok's shift from a platform for personal connection to one of marketing content affect user experience and trust?
For our methodology, our participants were aged 18 through 24. Each participant had an active TikTok account, and our participants were both male and female. For our recruitment procedures, we used word of mouth and contact through text and email. We had a total of 12 interviews, and our average length was 6 minutes. All of our data was transcribed via voice memos. For our data analysis, we used thematic analysis, and we developed these themes using repetition, reoccurrence, and forcefulness.
For our results, we had a couple themes. Our first theme was manipulative slash persuasiveness. This means that ads use coercive tactics to help influence purchasing behavior. One of our examples from one of our interviewees said, they use different tactics such as attractive people or low prices to try and get you to purchase the products that they're selling. For our other theme, it's trustworthiness. This means that skepticism about data security and the safety of in-app purchases. An example from one of our interviewees said, I can't imagine they are super safe. I've never experienced any fraud or theft, but I have had friends whose accounts have gotten hacked in the past.
Another theme throughout our research was screen time, which is just how much time a user uses their phone. For example, a participant said about 4 hours a day. Another theme we found was connection, which is a loss of human connection purpose geared towards more of entertainment and a marketing platform. For example, a participant said, everything feels like a simulation with no soul or character.
For our next theme, we talked about types of products purchased, and this means the different types of products that were purchased on the TikTok shop. For an example from one of our participants, they said, I get recommended like flashlights, hunting stuff, sunflower seeds, and stuff like that. For our other theme, our research question answer to this affects users' experience and trust by switching their overall motive while using TikTok from simply watching videos for entertainment to receiving advertisements for products that are recommended for the individual user to purchase. As for our discussion, we talked about how TikTok is turning into more of a marketing platform rather than an entertainment source. Our pros and cons from this is for pros, each individual TikTok user is able to get recommended products based on their personal interests, curated by their algorithm on their For You page. As for cons, each user tends to receive more marketing videos than entertainment videos on their For You page because of the high performance of product advertisements on TikTok. Another discussion we talked about was how TikTok's algorithm is curated through each individual's user's experience on the app. For our pros and cons of this one, our pros said that each individual TikTok user is able to enjoy the entertainment and products based on their personal interests within their curated algorithm. And for our cons, we said that each individual user gets products advertised on their For You page every few video scrolls, which may cause confusion and even may be overwhelming while using TikTok.
Okay, and for our limitations, one of our limitations was gender. We did have more female participants than male. Another limitation was our app evolution. So TikTok does change and evolve over the years, and it will continue to do so. It'll grow as a bigger marketing platform and continue. Another limitation was the algorithm. So depending on what the user watches on TikTok does determine the individual algorithm, making each participant's responses different.
As for our future research, using more male interviewees in the future. Interviewing more male participants helps to develop an equal ratio of gender. We also would like to use more of a mental health impact regarding how TikTok affects overall mental health in general. And as for another future research, we wanted to go into online sales competition, meaning how the TikTok shop is competing with online purchasing markets such as Amazon. Thank you so much for watching.
Underneath the rows of trees, I will see you where the ocean meets the sky. Under your toes, the fire grows. You are ready for a different kind of life. You're silent, bold, the wind is cold. You must return to the wild. You're silent, bold, the wind is cold. You must return to the wild. want you in this game. Take me out when I'm down. 'Cause with you I'm safe and sound. I'm safe and sound. I'm safe and sound.
Good morning, my name is Fayth Julius, and I studied Gen Z and Millennials and their political habits surrounding the 2024 presidential election. I started this research about a year ago in my Media and Society course with Dr. Mitten, and I've brought it along with me into my 460 course. Some research gaps that I'm looking at is the comparison of Gen Z to Millennials, the political atmosphere that we're in today, which is very polarized and hectic, and this is a majority of Gen Z's first time voting in a presidential election. The theory that I used was political information efficacy theory, which suggests that one trusts their own ability to understand and engage with political information. These are just a few of my hypotheses. H1 is the consumption of partisan media, which will lead to a stronger affiliation with one's previously claimed political party. H2 is individuals will fact-check the information derived from political media less than general information gained from the media. Post hoc H1 was individuals' political ideology will not correlate to whom they voted for in the 2024 presidential election. And post hoc research question 2 is, do individuals who believe that the source of political media affects the reliability engage in fact-checking more than those who do not hold this ideology? Moving forward, my survey took about 6 to 8 minutes depending on the participant. And then a sample question is, what candidate did you vote for in the 2024 presidential election? About 53% of participants reported voting for Trump, and 47% reported voting for Harris, which is very close to national average polls. After cleaning everything up, we had about 76 usable surveys. Some demographics include 79% female and 82% white. For my results, my H1 was in fact significant with a DV of strength of affiliation to previously claimed political parties and an IV of consumption media, and H2 is not significant. The DV was self-reported fact-checking of political and non-political media, and the individual was the IV. My post hoc H1 was also not significant, with 3 questions asking about Republican ideology and 3 questions asking about Democratic ideology, where 1 would be the lowest correlation to that ideology and 5 would be the highest correlation to that ideology. Moving into my constructs, so political media is basically just any social or traditional media that expresses political ideas or political beliefs shaping public opinion, and viewership of partisan media led to keeping the same ideology, which you can see through algorithms, echo chambers, and epistemic bubbles. Then moving to political literacy is basically just one's understanding of political media, and this is the ideology differences between the 2024 presidential election vote, which begs the question of individuals' true political literacy due to the lack of voting alignment with ideology. Moving forward, echo chambers are structures that expose people to one idea, typically the idea that they previously had, and 41% of participants reported not being in echo chambers, and 30% reported being in echo chambers, which is quite coincidental because typically people don't understand when they're in echo chambers. Media literacy is basically just one's understanding of the media and how to understand it, and there was no significant difference in the amount of individuals fact-checking political media versus other media, which begs the question of one's self-reported fact-checking habits. Moving forward, some limitations of this study is my H2 coefficient. I should have asked more questions related to this. I only asked 2 questions about fact-checking habits and should have asked more to understand the actual habit, not just self-reported fact-checking. Number 2 is a variety of responses. You can see that it wasn't very variety. It was 79% female, 82% white, and I should have asked an easier question, number 10, where I asked what media sources people like to use to gain their political media, which I should have used in an easier formatting. Then for future research, relationship between voting preference and political ideology would be interesting to look at, as well as deepening the understanding of fact-checking habits, not just self-reported fact-checking. And finally, the relationship between parents' political ideology and child's political ideology could be an explanation as to why people are not voting for ideology, but rather for the individual. Then moving forward, the Republican voters had a higher Democratic ideology score, even though it was not significant, which leads to the question of political literacy and why they chose to vote for the individual instead of the ideology. Moving next is partisan media leads to voting for previously claimed party, which begs the question of algorithms and echo chambers and epistemic bubbles that can lead to partisan consumption of media, whether this is intentional or not intentional. And then finally, individuals who believe that the source of political media affect its reliability to engage in fact-checking more than those who do not hold this ideology leads to think that those individuals who hold this belief may have higher media literacy than those who do not. Thank you for listening.
All right, joining you live from the floor of Blackwell Hall here. I'm with Evelyn Kreitz today, and she is a sophomore here. Evelyn, why don't you tell us a little about what your research has been about?
Okay, so I'm a sophomore environmental science major, and my research was about avian window collisions and strategies to combat that. I want to start by saying this isn't a traditional research project. We didn't obviously we studied them, but we didn't perform experiments on the subjects. We just were a literature review of how you can mitigate avian window collisions. And so basically what you can do is you basically just need to break up the windows. So there you can do window stickers, window films, or auditory devices just to let the birds know that there's a windows there, because they can't perceive window panes the same way we do because they have different eye cone surfaces. So those are more pricier options you can do, but there are free things that people every day can do, and that can remove any bird feeders from your surface, the window surface, and you can just close any curtains and turn off any unrequired lights to just mitigate any reflection of the surface so then the birds don't fly into the windows.
Well, thank you. That was some great advice here. My wife will be sad to hear that we need to remove our bird feeder, but that's good advice. Well, awesome. Thank you for sharing, Evelyn. We'll be back in a minute with some more from the floor of Blackwell. All right, welcome back to the floor here. Next, I'm joined by Emmalee Farmer, a senior archaeology major. Emmalee, can you tell us a little about the research you're presenting today?
Yeah, so I'm working at an archaeology site that's at risk for climate change. It's located on a cliff, about 50 to 60 foot cliffs. The site's about 100 feet from the cliffs. So I did a geomorphological risk assessment. So I've used GIS, which is a geographical digitizing program, to look at the shoreline, and I digitized the shoreline, and I used a program called DSAS to digitize those shorelines and measure the transects to show how that shoreline is being affected. So I took a date from 2010 and a date from 2020, and I found that the shoreline is eroding about 1 meter per year, which is a lot for that area. And the closest part to the site is a well that's about 10 feet from the cliff. So in about 10 years, that well's going to be gone. So hopefully I'm going to use this data to present it to the owners of that site and hopefully get some preservation for protection of the site.
Awesome, fascinating. Thank you so much for sharing here. Back in a minute with someone else.
When you want to get off the darkest ground, the gravity pulls you straight down. Earth from a bird's eye view. You should grow feathers and see this too. When you want to get off the darkest ground, the gravity pulls you straight down. When you want to get off the darkest ground, the gravity pulls you straight down. Clear sky.
I've spotted a comm student in the wild here. I'm joined by sophomore Yasmin Idell here. Yasmin, can you tell us a little about your research you're presenting today?
Yes. The research I'm presenting today is about a video game called Life is Strange, and I just kind of wanted to focus on like the nostalgia aspects of it and just how a player can like resonate with the video game that they're playing. And this video game in specific is about like coming of age anxiety through high school and like grief. So it's kind of a study about how players can resonate with the main characters through their own experiences and what goes on in game.
And so what your end to takeaway is the gaming has a more emotional connection with all of us?
It can. I want to say depending on the video game, because I would say that's a very like broad thing to say, but I would say with maybe more like player choice heavy games and things like that, or like first player games, I think that the player can maybe like connect more with their experiences that they go through.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Back in a minute.
It has been a year and now I'm thinking what's mine, that I'm better off right here without you. That I'm better off right here without you. I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in the cradles, profanities. I see the world through ice covered in ink and bleach. Cross out the ones who heard my cries and watched me weep. I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Take my eyes open to force reality. Why can't you just let me eat my weight in glee? I live inside my own world of make-believe. Kids screaming in their cradles, profanities. Some days I feel skinnier than all the other I love everything. Fire spreading all around my room. My world's so bright, it's hard to breathe, but that's alright. Hush. Hold your breath and feel the tension. Devils hide behind redemption. Honesty is a one-way gate to hell. I wanna taste consumption. Breathe faster to waste oxygen. Hear the children sing aloud. It's music to the wake bells out. Take the wrong and you make it right. Like a firefly, you're glowing at night. So don't make it hard, don't let me go. I wanna hold you tight when you're cold. I'm waiting for your love, you just keep me hanging on. I deserve to stay, and I will find my way. I will find my way.
Good morning. Our research project is named BAN, the effect of the TikTok ban on content creators and follower interactions. I'm Hailey Ward.
And I'm Mara Beck. We researched the TikTok ban that occurred on January 18th, 2025 to analyze its effects on content creators and follower interactions. Research that assisted us is the role of social media content format and platform in users' engagement behavior from the Journal of Interactive Marketing and influencers from Communication Research Trends. Our research was guided by our two research questions, which are, how has the TikTok ban affected content creators, and how has the TikTok ban influenced follower interactions with other social media?
We looked for participants who were aged 18 to 25, were active on TikTok, and had an interest in or were content creators. We recruited these participants through social media, face-to-face interaction, and messaging apps. We held a total of 12 interviews with an average length of 8 minutes. We split interviews between content creators and social media users. We had 5 content creators and 7 social media users respectively. Our data was transcribed through Transcriptor. We analyzed our data through thematic analysis with themes developed using repetition, recurrence, and forcefulness.
We split our themes between our participants, who are content creators and social media users. The themes are titled the same, but are slightly different in definition. For content creators, we have personal interest, where participants expressed their interest in creating content and using social media. One participant uses it for their job and discussed the ban, stating, when it actually got banned, I was actually kind of scared because I was like, what are we supposed to do in terms of a job? Cross-platform, participants discussed engagement across platforms and how they plan to use and move their audience to different platforms. Performance. Participants expressed their opinions on features of TikTok versus other platforms. Most participants preferred the algorithm, with one participant saying, "I feel like the algorithm on TikTok is very curated towards the person that's on there." And lastly, attitudes. Participants expressed their feelings towards the ban.
For social media users, we also have personal interests where participants express their interest in social media. Cross-platformed, where participants explain how they used other social media apps in comparison to TikTok. In terms of influencers, one of our participants stated, "I followed most of them on Instagram in case it happens again. I can kind of see their content." Performance, participants explained how they felt about different features of TikTok versus other social media apps. And finally, attitudes, where participants expressed their feelings about the ban. One of our participants stated, "I just about lost my mind. I did preparation, I went through my drafts and all my private videos and saved everything because I was genuinely scared. What am I gonna do without it?"
For our first research question, how has the TikTok ban affected content creators? Our research showed that the TikTok ban did not negatively or positively affect our participants in terms of engagement. However, it sparked discussion and thoughts regarding the future of social media.
For the second research question, how has the TikTok ban influenced follower interactions with other social media? Our research shows that social media users turn to other apps to fill the void left by TikTok, but most of our participants did not feel the need to seek out their favorite content creators on other apps.
For our discussion, participants shared their thoughts on the TikTok ban, where they expressed preferences, concerns, and expectations for what might come next for TikTok and the future of social media.
Specifically, all participants expressed that they preferred the features and algorithm of TikTok offered compared to other social media apps. For example, many participants specifically stated that they did not enjoy that their followers on Instagram could see what they liked, and many felt that it was an invasion of privacy.
The participating content creators brought up feelings of fear about the TikTok ban, as they are uncertain of the future of their careers. Many aspire to work in the field of social media, and the threat of another ban has them questioning what's next.
All participants discussed that if TikTok were to be banned permanently, another app would eventually emerge and take its place. All participants mentioned using another social media app in place of TikTok, mostly Instagram Reels.
A few limitations we found within our research are: there was a small pool of content creators to choose from, in which they had less than 1,000 followers, so we could not find the implications of a creator with larger engagement numbers. Participants were pooled from similar social circles, which could result in similar answers due to similar lifestyles. And all of our participants were women, which it is possible that different genders have different perspectives and different habits involving social media.
Based on our limitations, future research on the topic should consider obtaining a mix of genders to interview in order to obtain different insights, interviewing larger content creators with over 10,000 followers to see how engagement was affected on a larger scale, and participants with different lifestyles from different areas would be helpful in order to obtain information on different habits.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.
Good morning, Longwood. Hello, my name is Hailey Villalpando, and today I will be discussing my research regarding how influencers have an effect on online shopping. So, what exactly is this all about? So, it's about how social media influencers motivate people to purchase products online, and the focus behind my study is just how Gen Z and Millennials purchase products online. And the theory I've used regarding my research is the theory of reasoned action, which focuses on the behavioral intentions and attitudes towards an individual. And the three main components behind it is the beliefs, attitudes, and intentions regarding purchasing products. And this is useful regarding my research because of how people promote their products online and making you want to purchase them and not have a sense of FOMO. So a hypothesis I used going into this study was if you had an Instagram ad pop up on your social media page, then you probably are not going to buy it. And a hypothesis I had after conducting my research was if you watched a positive product review online, then you're most likely going to be satisfied with purchasing that product. So some of the procedures that I've done going into my research was that I held an online survey that took 2 to 3 minutes to complete, and it had a total of 108 participants, 73% of which were Gen Z and 17 were Millennials. All of my hypotheses were significant, and the first one was regarding the purchasing of items online that randomly show up on your social media page. The second hypothesis was regarding the decision-making of purchasing products. And my post-hypothesis focused more on trusting reviews and how satisfied you'd be. So a couple of the concepts that I had going into my research was influencer marketing, which is just how social media influencers make you want to purchase their products or whatever they're sponsoring. And this relates to my research because of them wanting influencers, social media influencers, just wanting you to buy whatever products they're selling or promoting what's sponsoring them. My second concept is social commerce, which is the practice of buying and selling products online off of social media platforms. And this relates to my research because of how people purchase products based on Instagram and TikTok shop, for example. My third concept was emotional engagement, which is just how ads and videos have an effect on your emotions. And this related to my study, so you wouldn't have a sense of FOMO and making you want to have a sense of urgency to buy said product. And finally, my final construct was credibility, which is just, are these marketers and social media influencers are they being true with what they're saying on what they're promoting or trying to sell to their audiences? So a couple limitations that I had regarding my research was that it was majority women that took my survey. There was a lack of Millennials as well that participated in this. And on question 13 in my survey, there was a lack of options of what people would typically purchase online, which I believe could have helped a lot more with having those options to see if social norms or like gender stereotypes have an effect on purchasing products and what they buy. In the future, if I had to change anything, I'd like to have an equal number of genders, both male, female, and non-binary, just to see what their purchasing habits are like. I wish that there was more Millennials that took this survey, and I would have tried to promote this survey on various other platforms besides my personal social media accounts, instead of doing a lot of word of mouth as well. But overall, based on my research, Gen Z typically shopped more online than Millennials, and the random ads that you see on social media do not always work as they intend to. Thank you.
boy, we did not have a working microphone that first one here. So we visit back in here. Fayth, I know you were a bit nervous. What was it like to do that presentation?
It was good afterwards. I just wish I had more time to share all of my research.
I know, that's always the dilemma here as we're running out of time now. One other thing you're involved in here, Fayth, you and your co-intern are doing some of the behind-the-scenes stuff here. So where can they find that, and what should they look for?
You should go on LU_COMM on the Instagram and go make sure you check out all of our content from today.
Beautiful. All right, we have Emmalee and Sydney up next, looking at patriotism and Olympic watching.
Thank you for joining us. My name is Emmalee.
And my name is Sydney.
And this is our research, The Olympic Effect, looking at media consumption, patriotism, and audience engagement.
Our study focuses on the perception of patriotism through how much someone watches the Olympics. Through the agenda-setting theory and the narrative paradigm theory, we can better understand the storytelling within Olympic coverage and how it shapes people's understanding of patriotism. Additionally, this research provides a unique lens by analyzing gender-based differences in Olympic viewing habits and how patriotic perceptions can vary across demographics.
And now that we've established our research focus, let's move into our hypothesis that we were tested. Our second hypothesis states that women are more likely to watch all aspects of the Olympics media coverage primarily for entertainment value. Our prior research states that women are typically seen viewing sports events due to family or friends gathering or other entertainment values. Our hypothesis that we wrote after data collection states that digital media will be used the most by younger age groups, whereas traditional media will be used the most by older age groups.
For this hypothesis, we defined digital media as social media, streaming services, and any online database, to where traditional media was defined as print or cable television. Additionally, younger age groups were qualified from the ages of 18 to 34, while older age groups were those from 45 to over the age of 65.
Participants completed a 14-question Qualtrics survey that took approximately 4 minutes to complete. While we initially received responses from 210 individuals, incomplete data questions left a final sample of 126 participants, with the majority being from the 18 to 24 age range.
Additionally, our results showed for Hypothesis 1 that there was no correlation between digital media consumption and the perception of patriotism. In our second hypothesis, we found no significant support to show the difference in viewing habits by gender. And finally, in our post hoc hypothesis, it showed significant support for difference in digital media consumption by age. Now that we have that understanding, let's look at the 4 constructs that were the base of our research. The first one being media consumption, looking at both the total amount of Olympic media individuals engaged with and the platforms they use, such as cable, social media, and streaming. We saw a clear trend and platform preference, with majority of participants, or 96 people, stating that they prefer social media and streaming services over print or cable. This shows a desire for convenience, control, and personalized viewing experiences. Our second construct is that of patriotism, which we defined as a sense of pride or attachment to one's country. We use this as a key variable for testing Hypothesis 1. And as we said earlier, we found that higher media consumption did not correlate to greater perceptions of patriotism. When we asked participants their main reasons for viewing the Olympics, it was predominantly stated that their top choice was for specific sports or specific athletes, and not with the motivation of cheering on their country.
We also examined 2 other key constructs, gender and social media broadcasting. For gender, we focused on participants who identified as male or female and used this to compare viewing behaviors, with gender serving as the independent variable for our second hypothesis. Social media broadcasting, being the dependent variable, explored the shift from traditional coverage to more digital engagement. Our studies showed no significant difference between men and women in watching the Olympics for entertainment, indicating similar viewing habits overall. 41 participants preferred following the Olympics through social media, helping grow a trend of transitioning from digital platforms, or transitioning towards digital platforms away from traditional media.
And now that the 4 constructs have been covered, we will go over the limitations that we discovered through our research. Since we used a convenience-based sampling method, majority of the participants were sampled from other universities, or predominantly Longwood University, showing in our age groups, with 55% of participants being from the ages of 18 to 24. This also accounts for our gender, with 72% of participants being female, and this accounts for it because Longwood University is a predominantly female university. Our final limitation is that of the construction of our questions. When constructing our questions, we did not have an option to click non-applicable when looking at media consumption. The media consumption elements only had it to where you had to list whether you used it or not, and so that then allowed for untruthful answers to be given by participants.
For future research, there were a couple of things from our study worth noting. First, we only measured perceptions of patriotism, and we did not include a scale for nationalism, which could have added more depth to our study. Secondly, our questions focused on the viewing intentions of the summer 2024 Paris Olympics, which also could have influenced respondents away from talking about the Winter Games in their responses. And lastly, this was a quantitative study done through a survey, and we think it would be valuable for later to do a qualitative study like a focus group to gain deeper insights into motivations behind Olympic viewing habits.
And now that there's an understanding of the research, why does it matter? When looking at the correlation between perception of patriotism, there are many factors that can be linked to the decrease in it, such as the polarization of the country due to political, social, and economic issues that have arisen. While there are other factors, we believe that this is the key contributing factor to the decrease in perception of patriotism.
Another interesting takeaway from our study was that we found it challenged traditional gender norms in Olympic viewership. We often assume that men and women watch sports for different reasons, whether that be entertainment or competition, but our data didn't support that. We found no significant difference between men and women in their reason for watching. This suggests that Olympic viewership might be more universally motivated than previously thought. Thank you for your time and enjoy the rest of today's presentations.
The best days in life are over. No light in your sky, your world has been dark. Stripped of your love, you've never been colder. You're losing sight of who you are. But there's still hope waiting on the horizon. You haven't lost yourself, lost yourself. Ghosts spark the fire inside you. You haven't lost yourself, lost yourself. Ghosts spark the fire. Stripped of your love, you haven't lost yourself, lost yourself. Hard to believe that anything's worth it. Ain't selling your soul, you give it away. No way to hide your heart is hurting. Fragile at best, you're ready to break. But there's still hope waiting on the horizon. You haven't lost.
Today we are going to be talking about public perceptions of influencer apologies, how followers interpret digital accountability. I'm Kaitlyn Croker.
And I'm Emma Mulholland. Our research topic on influencer apologies explored the public perception of influencer apologies, how followers interpret these apologies, and how it factors into their reactions. Our research question was, how do followers interpret an influencer's apology?
For our participants, we looked at ages 18 through 24, an average screen time of 3+ hours, and students of a small East Coast university. For our recruitment procedures, we used face-to-face sampling and Canvas messaging.
For our procedures, we had 12 interviews averaging of 6 minutes apiece, and we used to transcribe through Otter AI.
We used a thematic analysis with themes developed using repetition, recurrence, and forcefulness.
For our results, our main result was sincerity. Viewers feel that when sincerity is shown, they are more likely to return to watching, listening, or interacting with an influencer after a large scandal. A participant said, "I think how sincere someone is when they apologize will further affect how likely I am to interact with them again."
Our second one was nonverbal cues. Viewers often take body language and hand gestures into consideration when influencers apologize. Body language and hand gestures show how natural someone is. For example, one of our participants stated, "I really only believe people when they use their body to speak. If they stay completely still, it sounds too unnatural."
Our final result was content and tone of apology. Viewers take tone and word choice into consideration when it comes to anything influencers say. Word choice and tone is extremely important, and the difference between "I apologize" and "I'm sorry." A participant said, "When someone says 'I'm sorry' as opposed to just saying 'I apologize,' it makes me believe them more."
Our RQ answer, an influencer's ability to appear sincere, utilize appropriate body language, and choose their words carefully can significantly impact how their apology is received.
Our findings suggest that an influencer's ability to appear sincere, utilize appropriate body language, and choose their words carefully can significantly impact how their apology is perceived.
Additionally, the digital medium affects how these themes are interpreted, often making it harder for viewers to trust or fully believe in the influencer's apology.
Ultimately, apologies are not just about the words said, but the way they are said, and followers pay attention to every detail.
For our limitations, we found that our sample size of participants don't fully represent the broader population, and digital footprints were not considered. We also noticed that body language, tone, word choice, video quality, editing, and scripted content are important to understanding the digital interpretation of apologies. And lastly, smaller influencer scandals not being taken into consideration as well as their viewership.
Based on our limitations, we believe there could be future research in broader and more diverse demographics, including older age groups, more diverse cultural and socioeconomic backgrounds, platform-specific apologies, examining how apologies are perceived on different apps such as Instagram, YouTube, X, and Facebook, and scandal or severity apology type. Nature or severity of controversy influencers the expectations of forgiveness.
Thank you for listening to our presentation.
a place where you can run free. Time does not exist. Take a chance when the world before us falls under our face. I can't hold on. I can't remain so strong. We have the same old bond, but everything is wrong. My love is gone, but I've been born. I can make it on my own when I'm alone. My love is
Hello, everybody. My name is Christian Benniefield. I'm a senior here at Longwood University. I'm a major in communication studies, and today I will be presenting my research project. The topic of my research project is violence in movies, and we will be measuring adults' perception of violence in movies. And what makes my study different than others and unique is that we are focusing on the fictional impact of our on our reality. So for example, the way that movies and TV shows and television and social media has an impact on our real world and our real life actions. And so we're going to support that with the mean world theory. And what is the mean world theory, you may ask? It is the notion that you view the world as worse than it truly is. And sometimes people can start to think through this lens by consuming violent content in the media or through movies, and that is cited by Kemp. Moving on to my hypothesis, H1, violence portrayed inside of movies does not affect people's actions or perception of crime in real life enough to stop consuming the violent content. And then my second hypothesis is people who watch more movies are more likely to be entertained by violence in movies. And then my post hoc hypothesis is men are likely to spend more time watching movies than women. So to move on to some of my constructs, for my first hypothesis, we have media consumption. Media consumption measures a person's media intake, how much they watch movies, how often, how frequently. And when it comes to the second construct, we have learned behavior, which is acquired through life experiences and actions, and just the way that you live and what you learn from that. So for example, I learned how to talk, tie your shoe, learning on television how to rob a bank and actually going to rob a bank. These are all examples of learned behavior. And so that is why it would connect with my first hypothesis. Moving on to my second two constructs, we have violence in movies and we have escapism. Violence in movies has been around for decades. People love violence in movies. People sell out shows, buy tickets for the movies. A significant amount of people, however, did not mind the level of violence in movies. And this may be showing us why we do still attend movies. And moving on to my final construct, we have escapism, which is seeking temporary relief or a distraction from something. So for example, taking a drink of alcohol or watching a movie or playing a video game to distract yourself from the real world. These are all forms of escapism. Moving on to my methodology section, we have the procedures. I did an online survey. It took about 2 to 3 minutes, and we had some sample questions that we asked the participants. For example, how often do you watch movies, or does violence in the movies make you uncomfortable? We ended up with 79 final participants, ranging from adults ages 18 to 50 years old. My first hypothesis came out to be significant. We ran a t-test, and we did the same for my second hypothesis. And we also came to the conclusion that my post hoc hypothesis was significant, concluding that men do indeed enjoy watching violent content in movies more than women. Moving on to my limitations for my study, I would have liked to have more responses just so I could get a broader, just higher numbers in my participants. And then my second limitation was the lack of open-ended questions. I needed open-ended questions to get a more personal, in-depth perception of adults' perception of violence in movies. And then I also needed a larger variety of ethnic backgrounds because I had a large population of African-American people, and it would have been great to just have different races and ethnicities in there. For future research, like I said before, I would increase my sample size to a larger sample. And then my second idea would be to investigate people's perception on different movie genres like horror or romance. So, for example, women's enjoyment of romance movies during the month of February or things like that. And then my final idea was, instead of researching movies, research social media and the violence that is seen in social media. So, for example, the Twitter videos, the Instagram sensitive content, and things like that. So to wrap up, as of now, movies are not violent enough to stop us from watching movies. And the more we watch movies, the more we become desensitized to violence in movies. Thank you.
We're igniting, setting fire to it all. You know these flames ain't going out. This building is crumbling to the ground. Don't think that we can stop it now. 'Cause baby, our love is gonna burn down. You know these flames ain't going out.
All right, welcome back to the floor here. As you can see, the first session of posters is wrapping up here, but we caught up with junior Angie Scottese first. Tell us a little bit about her research. Angie, what have you been researching this semester?
So currently I've been doing research with Dr. Beach. We are working on trying to prove Acanthamoeba castellani presence in rainwater harvesting systems.
How can you translate in that for some of us non-scientists?
Yeah, no, of course. Okay, so rainwater harvesting systems, pretty much you see them around a lot recently due to rainwater scarcity. They're just big rain barrels that are usually connected to the roof or gutters that are connected to these roofs. And water pretty much comes down from and runs down these roofs into the gutters and then into these barrels, which are then sampled pretty much to see if there's any amoeba that are inside, these little intracellular parasites, or unicellular parasites, sorry.
And what's your takeaway? Have there been amoebas inside?
So currently right now we're actually trying to prove that. We're not done yet. We're hoping to be able to prove it. Previous research has noted that not only are there amoeba inside of these rainwater barrel systems, but there also could potentially be a Legionella, which has been preying onto these amoeba and pretty much acting as a reservoir for the proliferation or the repopulation of these intracellular parasites. Yeah.
Fascinating. I love getting to hear from some of the other majors and the stuff they're up to. Back to our comm students. Anthony's up next. Stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Anthony Pizzi, and for my semester-long study, I chose to study the impact of social support systems and mental health challenges, exploring campus networks and the role of friends and family. For my research topic, I chose what roles do social support networks play in the mental health of college students. My research gap, or what I found unique, was my focus on such a small age group. I chose to study the age group of 18 to 24, and I found unexpected things and quite interesting results. The theories I chose to use for my research was the social support theory. This is a psychological and sociological concept that explains how social relationships and networks provide people with emotional, informational, and practical help, which in turn can improve their mental health and physical well-being overall. For my hypothesis, H1, I chose to look at students who use the support programs have better overall mental health than those who don't. For my hypothesis 2, students who use media more frequently struggle with mental health issues and the challenges that they face. And for my post-hoc hypothesis 1, females were more likely than males to take initiative to get support. For my procedures and methods of obtaining data from my study, I chose to create a survey that took my participants an average of 2 to 3 minutes to complete, a total of 13 questions. Some sample questions for my survey was how often do you see or attend mental health or support programs, and how do you feel social media negatively affects the overall well-being or mental health of people. All in all, I had a total of 90 students or participants take my survey, and I chose to use 2 demographics, gender and age, to measure in my survey as well. I had a total of 43 females and 41 males, as well as 6 students who preferred not to identify, take my survey, and everybody who participated in my survey was between the ages of 18 and 24. For my results, my hypothesis number 1 was not supported but found very interesting facts, and I'll talk more about this in my discussion later. For my hypothesis 2, I used a correlation, and my correlation was weak but significant in the fact that social media and negative health effects came hand in hand, and as well as my PH-H1, which was not supported in my findings, that females did not take more initiative than males to get help. For my constructs, I chose mental health challenges, role of gender, types of social support, and something else. But for construct number 1, mental health challenges, looked at how students coped and dealt with their mental health issues that they faced, whether using programs from the school or programs they found themselves. One sample question I used to measure this was how satisfied are you with your mental health and overall well-being? For construct number 2, I looked at the role of gender and the difference between females and males who took my survey, and if there was any significant findings in either gender. One sample question I used to measure this was asking participants to state their gender without being too intrusive. For construct number 3, types of social support, the main types of social support are emotional, instrumental, informational, and appraisal. These types of support help people cope with stress and feel more connected to others. I measured this by using a question asking how often do you use or attend mental health support programs via school-offered programs or online support programs you found yourself. For construct number 4, roles of social media, I found that social media had a negative effect on my participants and their mental health. The amount of time and unrealistic images seen on social media made people feel worse about themselves than before. And how I measured this was using 2 questions about how do you feel social media negatively affects your overall well-being and mental health, as well as how often do you feel yourself being isolated after seeing unrealistic portrayals on social media. For my limitations, or what I found difficult throughout my study, was getting students to take my survey since it was such a constricted age group, detailed responses in my open-ended questions, as well as demand characteristic participant bias, which just means that my participants didn't quite fully understand my questions and didn't give the best answers that they could. For my future research, I would expand the age range or group to maybe high school through grad school and not just college, to broaden that age range. Focus on different media platforms other than just Instagram and Facebook, and ask more diverse sample questions in my survey. Based on my discussion, my biggest takeaways was hypothesis number 1, and that students who used support programs and got help actually reported higher levels of mental health issues after receiving the help. And I found this quite interesting and opposite of what I planned to find. My second biggest takeaway was that I found in my post-hoc that females and males had about the same initiative or less to go get help and that females didn't take more initiative than males. I've thought this would be true because females can speak about their opinions and feelings a little more openly than males, and they tend to close up. And that wraps up the end of my study.
All right, fresh off the presentation stage, we're joined by Anthony today. Anthony, how were your feelings before and after the presentation?
A little nervous, but after going, I definitely feel a lot less nervous, and that I knew what I was talking about, so that made me feel a lot better about myself.
Nice. What do you think your big takeaway has been from doing, a semester's worth of research on the college support systems that are out there? Maybe just kind of you personally, what do you kind of take away from this research process?
I thought that when students would attend college support programs such as CAPS here at Longwood, that they would actually have better mental health levels after. But my biggest takeaway was the fact that students who attended actually said that they had more or higher levels of mental health than before, which was quite shocking for me to find, and I just wasn't expecting it.
Now, Anthony, I know you came to Longwood not as a comm major here, right? You want to talk maybe about a class that might have kind of led you down that line of becoming a comm major?
Yeah, it was actually with Dr. Ryan Stouffer my freshman year. I took Communication Through the Food We Eat as a Citizen 110 class with him, and I'm lucky I got to wrap it up with also taking a Citizen 410 class, also talking about food and communication. And it just made me really like talking about communication, especially through culture and food, and having good teachers and professors such as Dr. Ryan Stouffer and others just really made my decision easy to switch to comm from business. So.
That's awesome. We're glad to have you. Sad to see you going. I don't know how it's been 4 years already. Anthony and his family, one of the famous stories I learned about him, they make 1,000 raviolis after Thanksgiving every year. And so recently we had some homemade raviolis, and I thought of you, Anthony. So we got Jake and Jane up next. Stay tuned.
So I'll try my best to not fall apart. And I find it hard to let go. The memories keep me together. Gotta fight till the end, no pressure, no pressure. And I find it hard to say no to the ones who want something better, to the ones who never say never. Will you be my pleasure?
Hi, I'm Jane.
And I'm Jacob. For our research project, we decided to examine the various reactions that consumers have had to the presence of diversity, equity, and inclusion, also known as DEI, in contemporary cinema. We will be taking a look at various principles associated with DEI as associated with the 2023 live-action remake of The Little Mermaid. When it was announced that Halle Bailey would be portraying the character of Ariel, reactions were, needless to say, all over the place. Some people loved it, some people hated it, and some people were indifferent. Through our research, we looked at what people define as DEI, how they see it represented in modern cinema, and how film studios can improve their overall approach to DEI. Our research was guided by our research question, which was, what are consumers' reactions to the presence of DEI as represented in contemporary cinema? For our methodology, the participants examined were 6 African American students and 6 Caucasian students between the ages of 18 and 22. We conducted a total of 12 face-to-face interviews where we used a thematic analysis to create our themes from repetition, recurrence, and forcefulness.
From our results, the following themes emerged. The first theme is the impact of DEI, with two sub-themes, consumers and businesses. These are the social, cultural, and organizational effects that people correlate to positive and negative efforts in media regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion. One participant said, "You shouldn't just put DEI in a story or in something where it wasn't originally there, just because it's 2025 and everyone thinks that that's what we should be doing." The second theme is the role of business and media in DEI, with two sub-themes, movies and television, and brands. This theme explores how businesses and cinema shape and promote DEI in their advertising, storytelling, and representation. Movie and television portray DEI in their casting, storytelling, and production. Brands portray DEI in their marketing, branding, and identity purposes. The third theme is representation, with two sub-themes, tokenism and accurate portrayal. This theme demonstrates the presence and absence of all identities throughout media, and how every identity is seen and portrayed differently. In the live action, The Little Mermaid, the results found that the DEI efforts were viewed as being done for appearance rather than being genuine. The interviewees want diverse characters, stories, and identities that are portrayed where their lived experiences can be showcased in cinema. The fourth theme is the politicizing of DEI. This is the political ideology through policy and media framing seen throughout cinema. Many participants believe that DEI is done with a political agenda. A participant said, "Hollywood is political. Everybody knows Hollywood is liberal." The Star Wars character that got fired for saying something that wasn't really political, Hollywood said, "You're out because it's not our politics." The fifth theme is audience reactions to race swapping, with two sub-themes, positive and negative. The theme considers the acceptance of casting decisions to enhance storytelling, or the pushback and negative reactions to the framed authenticity of DEI. Some interviewees said that The Little Mermaid is okay to be race swapped due to no connection with the culture, whereas The Princess and the Frog cannot be race swapped due to the connection of culture and community. With other interviewees saying, if you can race swap one way, you can race swap another. Overall, interviewees' reactions to the presence of DEI in contemporary cinema indicate that it is valuable and important in media, but should only be implemented if done authentically and without any ulterior motives. The most important findings that benefit our research include political agendas, DEI on and off screen, representation as a whole, and the history of cinema. Every interviewee addressed the political agendas and acknowledged that political element related to cinema and DEI. Interviewees elaborated on how DEI is both on-screen and off-screen, emphasizing that both aspects are vital in creating a story. One interviewee also highlighted the importance of understanding that no single person can be represented in every possible way through cinema. Society needs to find relatable elements within a character or storyline, or there'll never be an exact representation. Additionally, all interviewees discussed the history of cinema and reflected on how they have seen DEI elements throughout their media consumption and how it did or did not impact them.
Although the research had accomplished its aims, there were some avoidable limitations, such as race, sex, and exposure to the film. Race is a limitation because we don't have an accurate representation on how different racial groups express how DEI in cinema has impacted their viewership and how they've consumed different types of messages, storylines, and characters. Unintentionally, we had 9 female interviewees and 3 male interviewees. This is a limitation because we don't have an accurate representation on how different gender identities and sex identities are represented by DEI in contemporary cinema. Our results didn't provide us with insights on both views by having the majority of the interviewees not have seen The Little Mermaid based on their perceived political agenda of race swapping in contemporary cinema. This is a limitation as it left us with skewed responses from people who did not watch the film. The study prompts future research as we have not assessed other demographics and their representation in media. Furthering our research will help us gain a deeper understanding of how different demographics are portrayed in cinema and how DEI can encompass more than just race, including gender, religion, age, and much more. If research were to continue, we would focus on the live-action Snow White regarding DEI and how it's represented. Snow White has currently lost $115 million at the box office due to the controversy surrounding Rachael Ziegler, who is of Colombian descent, and the casting of non-actors with out dwarfism as the seven dwarves. Changes in the 2025 government have meant that there is no longer a need for DEI to be mandatory in workplaces. If we were to develop our research further, we would study the impacts of DEI in cinema through the next administration to see if DEI initiatives have decreased, increased, or remained the same. Thank you for watching.
If I saw another day, all we do is scream into the night. Nothing ever tries to change, even if I want to realign. 'Cause I've been sitting here, same old ways, taking off without the same mistake. Can I leave it all behind? Follow all the leading signs. When the dark is growing and the light is closing in, tell me where you're going. Won't be a simple voyage. When the night was closing in, I was alone and so afraid. Couldn't see the light. No. Then my world began to spin. Where's the beginning and where's my omega? Had to make it right. Oh yeah. There's a moment when you know that every teardrop has to go. They be piling up inside. Inside this glow. Could this moment be meant? You'll see. Lose the shadows and be free. That's so nice. Ain't gonna let it go.
Hey everybody, I'm Huddleston, and for my research I decided to do it on how online gambling advertisements influence the development of gambling addiction. So, what is it? This is a research study examining how online advertisements influence the development of gambling addiction and relapse of gambling addiction. The reason I was so fascinated by this is because I myself was constantly gambling and looking into like what made me gamble, what made me come back to gambling. And so I wanted to find out how everyone was doing this and how people were getting re-engaged into gambling. So this study looks into the psychological and persuasive advertisements used by gambling platforms and uses quantitative data pulled by a random selection of people to determine how impactful these ads are in influencing addiction. So for this, the main theory I used was the illusion of control theory. This theory is basically the idea that we can influence our outcome and odds, but in reality we can't change any of those things, right? So people have this fundamental idea that they can influence the odds. That's not true. So for my hypothesis, hypothesis 1, promotional offers from online betting sites increase impulsive betting behavior. Hypothesis 2, ads targeted to those with the gambling history have a higher rate of relapse when advertised to by online gambling apps or sites. And then my third one was men have a higher rate of relapse than women when presented with a limited time offer. So the methodology used. For the survey I used quadratics, and then basically the way I distributed that survey was through Instagram, word of mouth, and Snapchat. The average length was only 1 to 2 minutes. It was a really short survey. And then one of the sample questions I put in here was, how likely are you to bet impulsively without prior planning when presented with a limited time offer? So the final number of participants I had in this survey was 60. It's not a great number, but it got me enough to get the information I needed to get. The demographics included gender, age, and ethnicity. So in my survey, 66% were male. I had 89.8 18 to 24-year-olds, and then 66% white. The results showed that my first and second hypothesis were significant, with my third being non-significant. Okay, so I had 4 constructs in this research. So construct 1 was gambler's fallacy. This was that ads typically show hot streaks or near wins, which influences people to believe that they themselves can win. One of the open-ended responses I received was, I think the odds may work in my favor more often. Obviously, this is not true, and that's not how gambling works. But what I found out is people have the tendency to have the belief that the odds don't apply to them. And ads basically manipulate this feeling to get people to re-engage in gambling. My construct 2 was promotional offers. Promotional offers are powerful ads that targeted customers sign up to engage in gambling. Through my data, I concluded that those who received more promotional offers were actually more likely to re-engage in gambling. Personalized ads is my construct 3. Personalized ads create a sense of urgency or personal connection based on previous betting experiences, which influences the individual to re-engage in gambling. One of the responses on my survey was, gambling advertisements project a positive notion to gamble, which influences me to try and win money. So you can see these personalized ads get people to re-engage in gambling. And then construct 4, psychological reinforcement. Bonus offers create a powerful reinforcement for a lot of individuals that conditions people to continue to gamble. Despite frequent losses, people can lose over and over again, but the idea that that ad is there and it'll push them back into it. And then another survey response was, they make it seem like it's so much easier to process to win money than it actually is. They offer all these promos and limited time offers to get impulsive people. So some of my limitations that I had during this survey were collecting data. I only got 60 responses. This drastically influenced kind of like how much I could do with my data and how, like, if it's really believable or not, because when you only have 60 responses, there could be a lot of variance in the data and there's just not enough sample size. So that was my second sample size. I wanted a bigger sample size to get, be able to do more with my data and like really break it down. And 60 is not enough to do that. So in the future, a higher sample size. And then self-report bias. When we're talking about things like gambling and addiction, people tend to underestimate how much they actually are gambling or how much they're actually addicted to gambling. And so what they'll do is kind of, when they answer the questions in the survey, they'll go less than what they should have. And then for future research, increased diversity. Like I said, 89% of the people who took my survey were white. I want to get, more research than this. Oh, I went back. I want to get more research than this I want to get all types of ethnicities within this. Incorporate ad samples. So incorporating ad samples would basically allow me to track data better, and it would get rid of self-report bias. And then compare different types of advertising. These online sites use different types of advertising to specific players to try to get them to come back. I would like to see and track how the different types of advertisements, like ones with celebrities, basically influence people's relapse. And then discussion. This study reveals a significant relationship between online gambling advertisements and impulsive betting behavior, especially when promotional offers are used. So my hypothesis 1 and my hypothesis 2 showed that. The findings in my research support the illusion of control theory, which I talked about earlier, and then highlighting how personalized and persuasive ads and these strategies manipulate individuals and their perceived understanding of what they can do in gambling. This showed to be specifically true in young adults. And then while my hypothesis 3 was not statistically significant, I believe that looking into gender with a larger sample size and then going outside of college campus for research to get more variance in demographics could be beneficial. Thank you, guys.
Allison.
Hi, my name is Rachael Foster. Our research project is on women's fascination with true crime.
Our research question is why women watch true crime. Two research articles that helped us understand women's fascination with true crime were written by Hughes and Birch. These articles helped us understand and analyze the different reasons why women watch true crime.
For the methodology, our participants were females ages 18 to 22 who watched true crime. We recruited them from text messages and face-to-face. These 12 interviews were transcribed through Otter with an average length of 5 minutes. The themes developed using thematic analysis include why women watch true crime, how women feel watching true crime, and popular true crime cases.
Our theme 1 is why women watch true crime. We broke these up into 2 reasons. 1, entertainment, and 2, knowledge. One participant stated, "I just like learning about new cases and becoming more educated on it. I also just do it out of my own enjoyment." Our second theme is how women feel while watching true crime. There's a level of anxiety throughout all interviewees. One participant said they felt unsettled, frustrated, angry, interested, nervous, and scared. Another participant said they felt on edge.
Our third theme was popular true crime cases that were repeated more than once throughout interviews, which include Gabby Petito, Jeffrey Dahmer, and American Murder, The Family Next Door.
From our results, we were able to apply the looking glass self-theory, which is essentially using others as a mirror to understand ourselves. This is important because it shows women who watch true crime often feel like they can relate to victims and are able to find a way to connect. For example, Gabby Petito was a young woman traveling with her boyfriend. She had a strong social media presence. She was just like everyone you know. When she was tragically killed by her ex-boyfriend, people were shocked. They felt like they could relate to her. Domestic violence abuse relationships don't get talked about enough, so people felt like her story is being shared through them. Another case where people felt they could relate and connect to was American Murder, The Family Next Door. From the outside, this family looked like your ordinary, normal family, and it looked like it could be your neighbor. When the husband was convicted of killing his family, his daughter, his 2 children, and his unborn son, people were shocked. It really made them feel like they connected with the victims. These cases felt a sense of relatability.
It also allowed our interviewees to question, could this happen to me or even someone that I know? We found another reason why women are fascinated with true crime is because they want to be prepared if they are in the same situation. Women are the main target in violent crimes, and their stories are often shown in true crime documentaries. This is important because it demonstrates true crime documentaries are more than just a form of entertainment for women. It's a way for them to stay aware on current events. From our research, we were also able to see that entertainment did play a factor among women's fascination with true crime. This is important because although women watch true crime to feel prepared and be aware, enjoyment and entertainment did play a factor into the reasons why they watch true crime. From our interviews, we were able to see that popular documentaries were the ones that were the most heinous crimes. For example, Jeffrey Dahmer. Jeffrey Dahmer was very out of the ordinary and had crimes like no other. This documentary came out and was extremely popular among viewers. We felt that people who watched his documentary wanted to understand why he did it, and the entertainment value became from understanding his roles in his victims. That's why we believe that these cases were mentioned several times throughout our interviews. Our first limitation was fear of judgment while answering questions. Our next limitation was availability and the struggle to align schedules. Our final limitation was vague answers from interviewees. For our future research, we would like to understand why men watch true crime and the difference between men and women. We would also like to research different age groups and the reasonings they have for watching true crime documentary series. Thank you for listening. Thank you.
It's all about humanity. About humanity. It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity.
So, Dr. Hosterman, how do you think our students are doing so far?
I think they're doing really great. Is the mic on? Got the right mic? Okay, just checking. They've been doing a fantastic job, knocking it out of the park. Easy to handle. Easy to handle. What do you think, Dr. Stouffer?
I think it does help when you grab the right microphone. I mean, maybe that's my fault. But no, I've been very impressed, right? It's a nerve-wracking experience for them to come live on location. You get somewhat a sense of the chaos that's going down in the floor of Blackwell Hall. And so I've been very proud of how our students have handled themselves. And, of course, proud of all our students behind the scenes making the program happen. Closing thoughts?
This is it. Let's do it. Second half. Let's go.
About 15 more presentations. Stay tuned.
Barrineau, and I'm a senior comm student at Longwood University.
And I'm Peyton Shiflett, also a senior communications student.
Our research this semester focused on negative effects of TikTok on mental health of Generation Z users ages 18 to 24. We identified a gap in existing studies as the specific population and platform have been underexplored. To guide our analysis, we applied the social comparison theory, which helps explain how individuals evaluate themselves based on societal norms. We chose this topic due to our personal experiences both with TikTok and mental health, but also our interest in the topic.
We conducted a survey to examine how TikTok use affects mental health. One sample question was, do you feel that your mental health has become worse since beginning to use TikTok? Our final sample included 93 participants between the ages of 18 and 24, 87% being females and 13% males. For H1, we found a significant correlation between TikTok use and mental health decline. For H2, we did not have a significant correlation on TikTok having more of a negative impact. For H2, we did not have a significant correlation on TikTok having more of a negative impact on females' mental health compared to males. H2 was not significant. And our post hoc testing, if females were more likely to use TikTok as a source of entertainment than males, which showed no significance. So while we saw a strong link between TikTok use and worsened mental health, other findings were not statistically significant. One key focus of our research was TikTok's impact on user focus and productivity. In our H1 survey, most participants reported that TikTok negatively affected their studies or work. Many admitted to excessive scrolling, leading to procrastination and difficulty concentrating. This pattern suggests distraction. Another key theme we explained was the link between TikTok use and mental health, particularly anxiety and depression. When testing our first hypothesis, we asked, do you feel that your mental health has become worse since beginning to use TikTok? 57% of respondents selected agree or strongly agree, citing constant exposure to unrealistic standards, negative content, and information overload. While TikTok may seem like a place to escape, our findings suggest it could contribute to declining mental health through its design and pressure to stay engaged.
Our research underscores the impact of TikTok's algorithm on mental health. The algorithm reinforces content based on user interaction, often promoting harmful themes without users realizing it. When testing our second hypothesis, we asked, has TikTok negatively impacted your mental health? This cycle can worsen issues like anxiety, body image concerns, and often emotional distress. Our findings highlight the need for algorithm transparency, digital literacy, and mental health safeguards on social media. Our research also examined the link between TikTok use and self-esteem, well-being, and overall mental health. When asked over the past month, how often has TikTok affected your mental health, most participants reported a somewhat or extremely negative impact. This supports concerns that frequent use may lower self-esteem and worsen mental health, likely due to constant exposure to idealized content and social comparison. These findings highlight the need for healthier usage habits and a more mindful use of social media engagement. While this study provides valuable insights, we've decided it is important to note a few limitations. The first being open-ended questions. Though they allowed for detailed responses, some answers were unfortunately vague and too broad. More structured questions could have yielded a clearer data. Sample variation is our second one. Limited diversity in participants may have affected the generalizability of the results, as the sample lacked geographic, socioeconomic, and cultural variety. Our third and final being participation criteria. Focusing solely on Generation Z TikTok users narrowed the study's scope, excluding other age groups and platforms that could have provided a broader perspective.
Future research that can be done has been formed into 3 separate ideas. The first is finding a more diverse sample. We suggest this to low diversity in our sample. The second would be to examine younger age groups, ideally 13 through 17, as we were not able to do this in our survey. The third idea for future research is to obtain a wider sample between genders, as our sample was mostly women.
Our study found a clear link between increased TikTok use and declining mental health among Generation Z, with many users reporting heightened anxiety, stress, and low mood. This likely is due to constant exposure to unrealistic and comparison-driven content. We also found that female participants were more negatively affected than males, highlighting a gender-based difference in impact. These results underscore the need for more mindful social media use. Not just limiting screen time, but also being aware of how content influences our well-being overall. Thank you for watching our presentation, and we appreciate your time and hope this helps.
Try your luck and take a chance. Get for the risks in this moment. Take my hand, then break my heart. I'll never walk this road again. Stumbling steps grow to a dance where things change forever. There's no regrets, only the past. Will I change? Never. So swing me around, take me down. You won't break me, I'm too strong. Keep saying it wrong, I'll play along, but I will never be a victim. So swing me around, take me down. You won't break me, I'm too strong. Keep saying it wrong, I'll play along, but I will never be a victim. We barely know you hurt, I grow, I rock, you roll, we steal the show. I lock, you load, we lose control. I won't be held responsible.
All right, fresh off the presentation stage, I'm joined by Peyton and Lauren. Peyton, what are your thoughts of the moments?
I think I definitely blacked out during that, but I'm happy that it's over, but I'm happy that we got the chance to do it.
Nice. Lauren, similar thoughts? How are you feeling at the moment?
Relieved. I'm ready to enjoy the rest of my day.
Again, we have some other researchers doing posters downstairs. You can come to Blackwell Hall and see those, but continue to watch the COMM Studies YouTube channel for some more oral presentations. We have Lauren and Kaitlyn up next.
I'm Kaitlyn Cantu.
And my name is Lauren Palace.
And we conducted research on celebrity endorsements and brand image. The purpose of this study is to explore how celebrity endorsements, a key marketing strategy, influence consumer perceptions of a brand's overall image. In order to study our research gaps, we looked at two different studies, one from the Journal of Consumer Marketing from 2021 and another from the Journal of Academy of Marketing Science from 2017.
Our research question is, how do celebrity endorsements influence consumer perceptions of a brand's image? In order to conduct this research, our methodology consisted of having very specific demographics, which contained ages 18 to 22, and each individual was required to have 2 or more hours average of social media usage. We sent out requests to join our research using email as well as word of mouth. After all participants were collected, 12 interviews were taken place with an average of 5 minutes per interview. Each interview was collected and transcribed using Otter AI.
We used thematic analysis to analyze the themes in our data, and we found 3 common themes that were developed using repetition, reoccurrence, and forcefulness. After completing our interviews, the 3 common themes emerged. The first theme that we found amongst most participants was that brand endorsement does not strongly influence purchasing behavior. Participants are not easily influenced to purchase products that have been endorsed over products that haven't been endorsed. An example of this theme being displayed is when participant 3 stated, "I'm going to pick whatever looks good and whatnot and go from there. Give everyone a fair shot."
Idea of association is another theme that was called to attention after our interviews concluded. We examined that participants made connections between celebrities and the products that they have endorsed. A common association that we reviewed was females tended to name the product before the individual influencing, whereas male participants were called individuals endorsing first. For example, our female participant stated, "I saw an ad for Poppy with Alex Earl for TikTok," whereas the male stated, "I saw that dude from manager guy on the McNeese Day."
The last common theme found in our research is popularity matters in persuasion. Most participants believe that a celebrity's popularity makes their endorsement more persuasive. An example of this is when participant 1 said, "The more people they have following them, the more people that are going to see it."
Our research question concluded that endorsements do not signify impact consumer purchasing decisions, as most participants prioritize personal judgment and individuality over celebrity influence.
Overall, celebrity endorsements help make brands more visible and trustworthy. However, in our research, we found that they don't have a strong effect on consumer purchasing decisions, especially when individuality and authenticity matter most to our audiences. Interestingly, females tended to remember the product first, while males focused more on the celebrity. This shows us that people connect with endorsements in different ways and with different associations.
Limitations that we faced while conducting this research included that having a gender imbalance, we only had 33% of our participants being male, which skewed our results to be more of mostly a female perspective. Clarification was also needed as several participants gave vague answers, which indicated confusion amongst the participants. Our last limitation would be unsolicited answers. This left a little to no explanation as to why that was their response.
If this research is conducted again in the future, we suggest 3 things to help broaden perspectives and the data. First, diversify the participant pool. This is due to the overrepresentation of females within our data. Second, we suggest conducting longer interviews to uncover more detailed perspectives. This is due to the amount of questions that we had in our interviews, shortening the length.
The final point for our research is that we suggest it would be important to adapt cross-demographic comparisons. Using this, we'll be able to examine the endorsement influence differs across age, income, as well as cultural backgrounds. Thank you for watching our presentation.
stopped asking for forgiveness, cause you should know only fools tread where the angels fear to go, but you keep trying to get too close. Save myself by turning into stone. So save your judgment cause you just don't know. But some things never change, never change. Oh, they say I should feel guilty and change my ways, leaving crumpled bodies in my wake. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. But they're so delicate and so mundane, and they keep coming like a moth to a flame. Oh, some things never change, never change. You'll break your back to make me feel again. Suffocate to make me breathe again. Lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption. You make me move, you make me dance, you make my heart beat super fast. You lift me up, you make me laugh. Baby, you're the best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. Best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. Best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. You make my heart beat super fast. Super fast, super fast.
All right, we're coming at you live from behind the scenes here. We haven't seen too much of the production crew, so we thought we'd take you back here. Michaela's our director. So Michaela, kind of describe, what is your job?
Oh, my job. I call all the shots. I decide when cameras switch. I bring up the audio. Well, I tell my audio person to bring up the audio. And I just make sure everything runs smoothly.
That is great. They're doing a fabulous job here. We have Jose as the technical director here. He's pressing some buttons. Braden, what is your job?
Basically, all I do is make sure the names are spelled correctly. I don't know why I got this position, but, you know, we're doing the best we can.
It's a meritocracy. That's why you got that position here. And finally, let's head over to our audio engineer here, Madison. What is your job?
I'm making sure you sound great, Dr. Stouffer.
Do I sound good? Fabulous. Job well done, Madison here. So we're up with LaToya and Maddie next, talking about controversial issues and students' willingness to share their opinions on said issues. Stay tuned.
Super fast.
Hi, my name is LaToya Downing.
And I'm Madison Guest.
And our topic is on the silent majority, college-age students versus perception of public opinion. Our research is on college-age students from 18 through 25, and their perceptions of public opinion and how it impacts their willingness to express their views on controversial topics. The reason we focus on 18 to 25-year-olds is because they're at a pivotal moment at their lives. They are forming their identities and engaging with pressing societal issues. Our research addresses this gap by exploring how these dynamics play out in the lives of college students today. We use the spiral of silence theory proposed by Elizabeth Newell Newman in 1974. This theory indicates that individuals may hesitate to voice their opinions that they believe are unpopular due to fears of social isolation and disapproval from peers.
So listed here are 3 hypotheses. We focus on how controversy, knowledge, and social backlash affect young adults' willingness to speak on controversial topics such as climate change, LGBTQ+ rights, women's rights, foreign relations, and immigration. Each hypothesis ties directly into our spiral of silence framework.
For our methodology, we use online survey called College Tricks, which consisted of 15 questions. We use multiple channels of distribution, including group chats, social media platforms, and word of mouth. For participants, there was an average age of 20, and we had a total of 133 responses initially. But after data cleaning, we ended up with 98 usable responses due to incomplete answers. Regarding gender, 83% of our participants identified as women and 17% as men. In terms of race, 68% of our sample were predominantly white or Caucasian participants. For our results, our hypothesis 1, our analysis revealed a significant moderate positive correlation, which supports our hypothesis that the higher comfort levels correlated with an increased likelihood of sharing opinions. For our hypothesis 2, our results showed a very strong positive correlation, confirming our hypothesis. The more knowledgeable participants felt, the more comfortable they were expressing their views. For our post-hypothesis examined the relationship between perceived social backlash and their willingness to share personal opinions on controversial topics. Our findings found a small but significant correlation, which indicates that increased concerns about backlash may discourage opinion expression.
So our first construct deals with perception of public opinion, which refers to the general views that are widespread among the general public. And our findings indicate that students' perceptions are significantly influenced by peers, media exposure, and online discourse. We noticed from responses that even when students believe their opinions are in the minority, they're less likely to voice them because of fear of isolation. In terms of youth and political engagement, our research revealed that a level of political engagement among participants is often limited. While many students express interest in participating in civic activities, their involvement falls short. Based on the responses, we found that many students still rely on traditional media for information, which can shape their opinions and engagement levels.
For the construct controversial issues, we asked students how comfortable they were sharing opinions on topics like climate change, women's rights, LGBTQ+ rights, and immigration. Most responses were collected around a fairly comfortable range, but we found a higher percentage of comfortability in women's rights, which makes sense as women make up most of our sample. For our last construct, which is willingness to express opinions, we found that there was more knowledge on the subjects makes college-age students feel more comfortable sharing their opinions. In our open-ended responses, we recognized themes like being in a hostile environment, knowledge on the topic, and a relationship with others that came up repeatedly.
In terms of limitations for our study, we could have worded our questions better to get some more specific answers because a lot of our open-ended answers were more on the general side. And we also had a small sample. We used convenience sampling, and most of our students were from Longwood University, which is a predominantly white institution and mostly women, so our sample was not very diverse. And we also had a small range of controversial issues. We definitely could have used more specific issues that were more relevant to our sample.
For future research, we think further investigating the difference between online and offline opinion expression among college students, and we also think diving deeper into the qualitative side research of how students perceive controversial topics. And finally, we also think further examining the effect of different types of perceived public opinion on students' willingness to engage in discussions. Our 2 takeaways from this research is that this research showed us that college-age students often hold back from sharing their opinions on controversial conversations because they're worried about how their friends or society will react. If they think their views aren't popular, they will most likely stay silent.
We also found that students who feel like they know more about the topic are more comfortable speaking up. This means that if we can provide better resources and create spaces where it's easy to discuss different views, students are more likely to share their thoughts. Thank you.
it down. We're all dreamers, dreaming of the good life, but there's nothing that nice on the cards for us. It's alright though, 'cause we can have a good time, and we don't worry if it's dangerous. So take this ride and hold on tight. We're gonna live forever now, and side by side, we don't need light. We're gonna live forever now. You feel that touch and all the love, it makes us live forever now. We don't look up, we rise above. We're gonna live forever We've come so far, but it wasn't without a fight. We share these scars, but they won't keep us out of sight. We're all dreamers, dreaming of the good life, but there's nothing that nice on the cards for us. It's alright though, 'cause we can have a good time, and we don't worry if it's dangerous. So take this ride and hold on tight. We're gonna live forever now, and side by side, we don't need light. We're gonna live forever now. You feel that touch and all the love, it makes us live forever now. We don't look up, we rise above. We're gonna live forever We know that life is hard, not like the movie stars, but we know who we are in our broken
Hello, everyone, and welcome to our research presentation. My name is Katie Drummond, and this is my partner, Xavier Davis. Today, we're going to be talking about the research survey that we conducted on what makes an NFL fan.
So our research topic today, we're going to be exploring what makes someone choose and stick with their NFL team. We surveyed people to see what influenced their fandom, location, branding, and something more personal. It's unique because it focuses on modern fan behavior, especially how younger fans engage emotionally and visually through social media. The theory that we used was social identity theory because we wanted to see how people connect their identity groups to a social fan base.
So for our hypotheses, if an individual chooses an NFL team based on the geographic location, then the more likely they are to stay loyal to that team. Our second hypothesis is team merchandise. If the team merchandise is more visually appealing, then the fan is more likely to identify with the NFL team. And then for our PHH1, if an individual is white/Caucasian, then the more likely they are to wear a team jersey over other merchandise.
So for our methodology part, we kind of conducted a short survey that took about 1 to 2 minutes to complete. For a sample question that we had was, if your team changes design, would you still identify with that team? Basically, if the team changes logo or color scheme, would you still want to stick with that team? For our participants, we had 71 overall individuals, and 83% of them were white individuals. And for males 18 to 24, we had about 92%. For our results category, all of our hypotheses turned out to be significant. For our H1, we measured the distance between how far a fan was to the for the NFL team and how long they've been a fan of that team. For our H2, it was the merchandise and fan identification. For H3, it was the correlation of apparel and race. All three hypotheses are supported because the patterns are real and meaningful and not random.
So for our discussion, a couple things we talked about were fandom and location. So
Through the study, we identified the key motivators, and the fans were driven by entertainment and group belonging and personal identity. And the closer that a fan was to the team, the more loyal they were to their team. And then for location, based off of prior research, fans view their team as a reflection of the city that they represent typically. So the bigger fan you were was due to the state that you lived in or a neighboring state that you lived in.
And with that as well, for our other two constructs, we talked about branding and merchandise. For branding, we have found a study that had 3 stages of research, basically how fans see themselves through the team. And for merchandise, depends on team logos, colors, and design, depending on how that fan identifies themselves with that merchandise.
So for our limitations, we had sample size was kind of small. It was mainly between the 18 to 24-year-old males, especially white Caucasian males. We also said that when we asked where participants were born and not necessarily where they were raised, which also could affect their loyalty based off of things like that. So like if I was born in Virginia and I was a Commanders fan rather than if I was born in North Carolina and I was a Bills fan. So another limitation was we could have had more diversity. It lacked racial and ethnic diversity. It was mainly white people that took our survey. So
for future research, we kind of want to conduct more of a longitudinal study, basically seeing how fan loyalty changes over time, especially if people or the team rebrands, excuse me. For social media shapes fan identity, we want to see, especially in younger audiences, who follows the team online, especially like through media and everything, how that also ties in. And for cross-cultural comparisons, we want to highlight how NFL fans differ from soccer, cricket, or other sports within the world.
So for our final discussion, fan identity is not just about scoring, it is about belonging, pride, and personal values. It's also about understanding fan motivation and how that builds loyalty and lasting communities. It also offers marketers insight on how to create meaningful engagement. And then being a fan is more than just sports. It is about connection and being connected to something bigger than just yourself. So thank you all for listening, and that's what we have for today.
All right, we have a special pre-presentation guest here. Bella's going in about 20 minutes or so, I think. No, I've got like 40 minutes. 40 minutes. It helps if you know the schedule here. Bella, what are you feeling right now about your presentation?
To be completely frank with you, terrified. My presentation partner unfortunately cannot be here today, and I found out this morning, like less than like an hour ago. So I'm a little nervous, but you know what? Everything happens for a reason. Everything will work out. I know the stuff. I know the research. We worked on it together. We worked really hard to collaborate, so I know it quite well, so I'm not too worried about it.
Do remember to be confident here. We know Alexis will be watching the live stream, rooting you on. Bella also got the chance earlier to direct. We talked to Michaela a bit. Bella's one of our previous directors today. What was kind of your takeaways from that experience?
So last year I got the opportunity to help with the live stream with COMM Lab before that too, but I never got the opportunity to really direct. This year we have a larger production, and I really think having the technical director, audio, and everyone communicating, as well as the new headsets we got, it was really fun, and I think it was a really, really great opportunity to coordinate with others and work on a live broadcast experience with research, because I've never really presented with research before for that. And so I think it went really well, and I think it was really, really nice to be able to put that on my LinkedIn and say I've been able to help produce a live, research conference.
I think that's great, too. So do shout out to Provost Smith and Dean Byrne here for helping us acquire some new gear here so we can bring you an improved production experience here. So a couple minutes, we'll be back with Jocelyn and Jordan. Up next, we have a pre-recorded presentation. The Longwood lacrosse team is on the road today playing Winthrop. So as always, good luck Lancers to bring home that W. And so we had to record Jordan and Jocelyn's presentation yesterday. So let's roll that beautiful presentation footage.
Hi everyone, my name is Jocelyn Sanders, and this is my partner Jordan Ellerson. Our semester-long research was how Generation Z Instagram interactions differ from face-to-face interactions.
Since Instagram is such a widely used platform for this age group, we were interested in how it affects their social behaviors, especially after the social isolation within COVID-19. This creates a relevant research gap because while Instagram use is common, its impact on social and real-life interaction skills weren't as well studied. Our study is grounded in the cultivation theory developed by Gerber in 1972, and this theory suggests that long-term exposure to media can shape a person's perception of reality. So, for our research, we explored whether frequent Instagram use influences how Gen Z perceives and engages in real-life face-to-face interactions.
So we had two hypotheses. The first hypothesis we had was the more college students interact with Instagram, the less they prefer face-to-face. And then our second hypothesis is the older you are, the better face-to-face interactions you are likely to have. We wanted to test these two hypotheses because after the COVID-19 pandemic, we noticed that Generation Z's socialization skills were weakened due to not having the opportunity to have face-to-face interactions during pivotal years such as high school years and early college.
So as you can see, for our methodology, we created a short survey that took participants around 3 to 5 minutes to complete, and it had 16 questions. And there were 96 total participants that gave us data to evaluate. And all of those participants were Gen Z college students who use Instagram.
So our first hypothesis ended up being not significant. Our second hypothesis actually ended up being significant, and our third hypothesis that we also tested was significant.
So within our research, we divided it up into 4 constructs. First construct was comfortability. Comfortability comes into consideration when evaluating how comfortable students may or may not feel, whether it be interacting face-to-face or even on Instagram. We noticed within our research that Longwood communication students specifically were more likely to communicate in person. Our second construct was age. Gen Z is a majority of who are potentially harmed by face-to-face interactions because of how much we use social media and electronics to begin with. And within our research, we were able to determine that college-age students actually don't feel that social media impacts their ability to communicate in person, which kind of was surprising to us.
Our third construct was self-esteem, and this impacts how one sees themselves online versus in person and how they choose to communicate. So, for example, people might feel more confident speaking online to people versus having face-to-face interactions. And then our construct 4 that we evaluated was socialization. So the likelihood of one interacting with others based on social media factors. And this kind of just came into play when we started thinking about COVID-19 and the pandemic and how socialization kind of went down.
So within any good research, there's always limitations. One of our first limitations was the lack of responses on our open-ended questions within our survey. We had 2 open-ended questions, and when I think back to it, I remember being like, oh my gosh, no one responded to any of our open-ended questions, but there was consistency in that because no one answered the open-ended questions. Our second limitation was the majority of responses, just because we felt that majority of them were from communication studies students, and rumor has it that communication studies students are more likely to talk to anyone and everyone, which obviously would inflict on our data overall. And our third limitation was just having more specific age options. If you were to go onto our survey, you would see that you could choose into a range, so whether it be 18 to 21, 22 to 24, we would rather next time, if we were to do this research again, just to have a more specific age that they could select so we could better evaluate that data.
And then for future research, we kind of want to explore all social media platforms, so X, Facebook, and TikTok, just because that's all also becoming more popular along our age demographic. And then we also kind of want to explore, if we were to research this again, the different type of accounts and what people are using them for. So for personal, work, or just for content creation. And then kind of what Jordan said, we kind of want to expand our study among more psychology department or sociology or something like that at Longwood, so it's not just focused on communication studies.
And so all in all, our results indicate that Gen Z college students, especially those who are studying communication, still prefer face-to-face interactions. And as students get older, they tend to engage more comfortably in person, which this is to be expected after missing having in-person conversation due to COVID-19. We believe that COVID-19 pandemic had a lasting impact on our social behavior, and understanding these patterns will help us better support student communication moving forward. Thank you.
Back down on the floor here in Blackwell Ballroom, I am joined with junior biology major Javier Roldan. Javier, can you tell us a little about the research you're presenting today?
So my research mostly goes over Chagas disease, which is a very neglected disease within the U.S. It is spread by tradamine insects, which are related to bed bugs, assassin bugs, and other bugs that are in Virginia. In Virginia, the main vector for the disease is Sugasoma tridoma, and it is a very small insect that feeds on the blood of mammals. The disease is spread by its feces, which, when they bite you, you get irritated, and you are usually you scratch it like with any bug bite, and that's how the disease can spread into you. The problem with Chagas disease is it kills about 10,000 people every year, and the CDC says that there are over 1 million Americans who may have this disease but do not know and will never find out until they have the chronic disease. So there's an acute stage and a chronic stage. The acute stage, you just have a flu, and the only real sign that you have Chagas disease is Chagoma or Ramona's sign, which is the swelling of your eyelids. Other than that, you just have flu-like symptoms, and the only way to find out that you have Chagas disease is to look into your blood with PCR or under the microscope to find out that you have the disease in your blood. The problem with the acute stage is that it lasts for just a couple of weeks, and after that, if you have not treated it, it's very hard to treat, and most people will have lifelong injuries dealing with heart problems or other cardiovascular problems.
That is fascinating here, and swollen eyelids is one of the symptoms there. So good for all of us who are just kind of outside here in Virginia to be aware of that. Well, thank you very much, Javier. We'll be back soon with Nick and Elijah.
Are we live? Oh, hello. My name is Nicholas Hamlet, and this is
Elijah Tucker.
And we decided to do our research on NIL versus the integrity of college sports. We chose this because I myself am a former D2 college athlete, and Elijah here himself is a current athlete. So we both had a chance to kind of experience what it was like to do this firsthand. The research that we chose to do was the impact of name, image, and likeness, which is more commonly known as NIL deals. And that aspect that we discovered was the impact that it had on integrity of sports, the integrity of college sports to be more specific. This study takes an approach on a perspective and an impact to gauge the severity of changes taking place of college sports. Also, it is very important because it takes into account that this is a very new and fresh aspect of college sports due to the recent rapid changes that is happening. So it hasn't really taken time yet to go into the necessary depth that needs to be explored. The theories that we used was George Gerbner's cultivation hypothesis. And that states that more television people watch, the more likely they are to hold a view or reality closer to the television's depiction. Now, we chose this because we can easily associate that with how social media works in today's time and age. Obviously, we know that social media is kind of the new age television. So the way that the social media depicts these opinions of the NIL deals and how they're being perceived and how they're being impacted, because nobody really knows except of the players, coaches, and transfer portals, recruitment, so on and so forth, is how the fans kind of perceive what is going on. So fans, the hypothesis that we decided to do was fans will perceive that money will have a more detrimental impact on college sports than the athletes themselves, and paying student athletes such as NIL has an adverse effect on perceived integrity of college sports. We chose these two because they kind of do well while working against each other, at the same time coinciding with kind of proving or working to uncover which side or impact that falls on the whatever topic or discussion that is being viewed.
Methodology. The survey that we did was a 2 to 3 minute survey with 12 questions. The participants, we had 46 participants with a demographic being student athletes and college fans that took the survey. Results, hypothesis 1 was not significant, hypothesis 2 was significant, and the post-hypothesis was significant as well.
So, here are our constructs. Up first, we have our finance. Should college athletes be paid? Well, paid student athletes such as NIL has an adverse effect on the perceived integrity of college sports. The question we asked to figure this out, do you believe the financial advantages in sports help to improve the competitiveness of sports itself? Why? So the response that I found that was very significant was players and people in general will compete their best when they know they could expect a better pay with another team that improves competitiveness. If you look at the service level, but the reality is that players will perform better, especially at bigger schools, to get paid more somewhere else. Our second construct that we used was, well, what does it mean to be a college sports fan? And what we found was fans seem to value their sport over the institution that plays it, and also believes that finances have impacted sports, which means that instead of fans loving the institution where the sport is being played, they love the sport more itself.
Limitations. We could have included more constructs to guide our research to a more concise conclusion. For example, we could have included, what does it mean to be a college sports fan? The second one, failed to include all constructs clearly. We failed to analyze the difference between Division I and Division II. Some Division II athletes do get paid, so it would have been a good idea to get their viewpoint as well. And we lacked enough survey responses. We only had 46 responses when we needed 100. I blame Reddit. We put it out there. I put it in the group chats. They said they did it. It did not show that. Future research. The difference between Division I and Division II NIL. That would have been a good idea to see because Division II athletes do get paid like Division I athletes. It's just not as much money. So it would have been good to know if Division II athletes see the same impact as Division I athletes, and to discuss how schools who fail to acquire large NIL deals are impacted. It would have been good to see if smaller schools with less amount of NIL would have done well just as much as schools with a lot of NIL. Analyze how college fans and athletes think the future of college sports will unfold. Will NIL bring college sports up with the competitiveness and the integrity, or will the money impact athletes and bring the integrity of college sports down? Discussion. Although the players are actively impacted by the changes of college sports, the fans are being impacted just as much. We did not think that at first. We thought that college athletes would be impacted more just because they're the ones getting the money. We didn't realize that fans would be impacted just as much as NIL. It was notable to discover that through research conducted, both athletes and fans valued their institution over monetary gain. We did not think that as well. We thought that athletes cared more about the money and not the actual institution that they went to. So it was good to see that athletes and fans love their institution, value their institution more over the money. In conclusion, we thank you guys for listening to our research topic. My name is Elijah Tucker.
And I am Nicholas Hamlet.
Thank you for listening and have a great day.
It's all about humanity. It's all about humanity.
Hi, my name is Zachary Kenny.
And my name is Courtney Yates.
Today we will be presenting our research of the effects and differences of social media communication versus face-to-face communication by race, generation, sexual identity, and gender.
So jumping into our research topic, we wanted to analyze the effects and differences of online communication versus face-to-face communication, specifically within the four constructs of race, gender, sexual identity, and generation. Now, what makes our study very unique is that there's a lack of scientific resources that highlight specifically those four constructs within online and face-to-face interactions and communication. Now, for the main theory that we use the uses and gratifications theory, and this theory basically suggests that individuals usually satisfy themselves using media sources that satisfy their needs the best. For example, it could be with connection, information, entertainment, and social identity. And going along with our theory, we suggested that Generation Z will have a stronger preference for social media communication versus face-to-face.
Next, we will dive into our two main hypotheses. We looked at how two different groups prefer to communicate. Our first idea is that Generation Z racial minorities might like talking face-to-face more than non-minorities who might be more into texting, social media, or any other way to communicate online. This could be due to people preferring in-person conversations feel more real or personable for some groups. The second is that LGBTQ+ Generation Z members may prefer social media online chatting over talking in person. That might be due to feeling safer or easier to be themselves online and connect with people who understand them.
Now, for our methodology, we decided to conduct a survey. Now, this took about 2 weeks to gather all 117 participants. And we sent this survey out via Instagram, social media, Canvas, and also word of mouth. Now, we did have to reject 2 different responses just because of generation preferences. Now, for our hypothesis 1, we did find that the difference was not significant, and that was within racial minorities and non-minorities. And for our hypothesis 2, we found that there was a significant difference within the LGBTQ+ community and the straight community.
Now we'll be jumping into our first 2 contrasts. Our first one being race. We examined how race affects how people communicate on social media. We found that African Americans tend to prefer using social media over face-to-face conversations. The difference wasn't huge, but it shows that minorities might use social media a bit more. We also studied how sexual orientation affects communication. The big finding here is that straight people seem to like having face-to-face conversations more, while LGBTQ+ people use social media more. This supports our original idea and suggests that online spaces are important for LGBTQ+ communities.
Now, jumping into our next 2 constructs, we have gender. And we wanted to see if there were any correlations between gender and communication preference. However, we did find that there was no real significance there. And for our 4th construct, even though we were specifically analyzing Generation Z for our research topic, we did want to see if the generation did have any indicating factor about preference for form of communication. And we only had 2 responses that were outside of Generation Z, so we did have to reject them. And we did find that there were no true significance with that.
Next, we will be jumping into our 3 limitations. First, we couldn't really break the data down by age, which made it hard to spot trends between different generations. Because of this, we did have to throw some data out. Second, there was a gender imbalance in the responses. Out of 112 people, 84 were female and only 28 were male, with 1 response being non-binary. This could affect how well our results apply to the whole population. Third and final is the data is based on self-reporting, meaning people answered questions based on how they wanted to be seen. This can lead to answers that are influenced by what's socially acceptable rather than what's really true.
Now, for future research, we had 3 main ideas that we wanted to conduct. For 1, we wanted to open up the research to more groups, such as class, religion, etc. And for our second one, we wanted to see if we can have the study carry on for longer, for example, for 5 to 10 years or 2 years, just to see if there were any lasting effects. And for number 3, we wanted to conduct an in-person focus group or hold in-person conversations just to really set in our factors.
And to close, we wanted to discuss our two main takeaways from our survey. Some people stated that using social media actually makes it harder for them to connect with others and communicate well in real life. So even though it helps us stay in touch, it might hurt how we talk and bond face to face. Lastly, not everyone felt the same. Some people like social media for communication, while others preferred talking in person. Both ways have good and bad sides, but it really depends on the person. Now, we all know that communication isn't one size fits all. It's different for everyone. Thank you so much for listening, and we hope you guys enjoyed our research. Again, I'm Zach Kenny.
And I'm Courtney Yates. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
My name is Ryan Forrest, and this is Conifer Sulentung, and we are exploring the impact of reality television, specifically the viewer perspectives and preferences.
Yeah, so like Ryan said, we're looking at exploring the impact of reality television. So that's kind of looking at why people watch reality television and why they're interested in it. You may be wondering why we're doing this, because it seems like a topic that a lot of people would have talked about in the past, but they've talked about it with adolescents in different countries with different genres, but not this specific topic. The theory we used was cultivation theory. Cultivation theory is prolonged exposure to media, in this case reality television, which shapes the viewer perceptions of reality. Now I'm going to hand it over to Ryan.
So yeah, taking a look at our hypotheses. Hypothesis 1, people who watch reality television for entertainment purposes are more likely to perceive themselves in a positive light. People who enjoy the surveillance aspect of reality television are more likely to perceive reality accurately. And then for our post-talk analysis hypothesis. People who enjoy strategy-based reality shows also enjoy drama in reality television. This hypothesis was formulated after participants took our survey, and then we came to the conclusion that this would be a good hypothesis.
Yeah. So for our methodology section, we did convenient sampling and we did a 3 to 5 minute survey. So basically that means that we handed our survey out to people that we knew and the people around us. So friends, family, people on social media. And you can see an example for a question on screen right there. We had 110 final participants that we used for our research, 85% of which were Caucasian. And then we had a pretty good mix within our gender respondents, 53% female, 36% male, and 12% other. For our results, both our first and second hypothesis, we found significance, meaning that there was a correlation between both of our hypothesis constructs, which we'll talk about next. And then for our post hoc analysis, we did not find significance, although we were very close to approaching and proving that significance there.
Looking at some of our constructs for entertainment, that is how much the viewer enjoys the content. So some examples that we found, so these are just some survey responses that people answered with. I enjoy watching reality television because most of the people on the shows have strong personalities and make it entertaining. It's entertaining and passes time. Entertainment is a massive drawing factor whenever people watch reality television. This is because the people that are watching the show can connect with the personalities and on-air personas that these people are putting on, and it is just a fascinating example of reality television.
Yeah. Like Ryan said, there's also a perception of self going on there. So how an individual views and evaluates themselves based on prior experiences. In this case, those prior experiences is watching reality television. People tend to view themselves better when they watch reality television, which was proved in our first hypothesis. Not proved, but it supported that hypothesis. An example is being, I enjoy American Idol because I see myself in the people that they cast for the show. That meaning that they see themselves represented in that show, thus they feel better about themselves there. Ryan, on to you next.
So surveillance is another construct that we had. So surveillance is the 24/7 watch of participants within reality TV. This is something that people don't really fully know that they like, but it's actually a very interesting thing because you're able to see people at their most raw version. And that was one of the quotes that we drew from survey responses. Another example, I like watching live feeds on Big Brother. This isn't a shout out to Big Brother, but Big Brother is a fantastic example of live feeds. They have 24/7 watch, so you're able to watch people eat, sleep, have conversations, and it's a fascinating thing that a lot of people online will take advantage of and just run with.
Yeah, and that leads into our last construct, which is perception of reality. Perception of reality is shaped by the interactions with others and how someone views the world. So when people see 24/7 live feed on Big Brother or other shows that are similar in reality television, it shapes the way that they view reality. So an example being, it's easy to watch, it helps me connect with others and around me and portrays real stories. Meaning that watching reality television is shaping and changing the way that people are perceiving reality and what people consider to be real stories and experiences.
So some limitations that we did run into. Our first limitation, we were lacking diversity in respondents as seen in our methodology section. We found that race-wise, it was lacking diversity. But then looking at gender, we had a very good split. With the second limitation, not all questions varied together, so that just means that our wording could have been a little bit better. So a little bit of confusion there between us and then the survey participants. And then convenient sampling is another limitation that we had. Convenient sampling, that's basically just whenever it's convenient to us. So what we did was we looked at a lot of people on Longwood's campus, and if they weren't on Longwood's campus, then it was whatever convenient to us. So we looked at a bunch of other stuff like Reddit forums and Google forums and really whoever we could get to take the survey.
Yeah. And then for future research, we would definitely recommend looking at a specific show or a specific subgenre of reality television. So for example, looking at TLC shows or CBS shows in specifics, or looking at just The Traitors or something like that. Our second idea is to survey certain age groups. We only looked at adults in our survey, so looking at teenagers and seeing how they perceive the world could be super interesting. Or looking at a different generation entirely. Our third idea is to use a qualitative method, such as a focus group or interviews, and that way you can look and see why people felt a certain way, not just how they feel. And that's kind of all we have.
We also have some key takeaways.
Never mind. We got discussions.
We got some key takeaways. Some of our takeaways that we found is that those who watch reality television view themselves in a positive light. And then we also found that there was some correlation between those who watch reality television for the drama and also enjoy the strategy. We are both avid reality television watchers. We enjoy it for all four of those constructs that we looked at, and it was very fascinating to look at everything that we did over the course of this semester. Thank you guys for your time. I'm Ryan Forrest.
I'm Connor Tongue. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.
Keep trying to get too close. Save myself by turning into stone. So save your judgment cause you just don't know. But some things never change. Never change. Oh, they say I should feel guilty and change my ways, leaving crumpled bodies in my wake. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. Swear I didn't mean to make them break. But they're so delicate and so mundane, and they keep coming like a moth to a flame. Oh, some things never change, never change. You'll break your back to make me feel again. Suffocate to make me breathe again. Lose your mind from endless pain. Some things never change, never change. Oh, redemption. You make me move, you make me dance, you make my heart beat super fast. You lift me up, you make me laugh. Baby, you're the best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. Best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. Best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. You make my heart beat super fast. Super fast. Super fast.
You make my heart beat super fast.
What does love feel like? What does love feel like? You're the best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. Best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. Best I ever had. You're the best I ever had. You make my heart beat super fast.
You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat. You make my heart beat.
Good afternoon, I'm Shane Lyons, and this semester I've been conducting research on motivational factors of participants of nonprofits. I chose to explore what motivates people to donate or volunteer for nonprofit organizations. Understanding these motivations help nonprofits improve outreach and build strong relationship with supporters. I chose this topic since I've been interning for a nonprofit for the past 10 months, and after graduation I hope to work full-time in the nonprofit field. To address gaps in research, I examined 4 constructs that are not integrated in a single study. I grounded my study in social exchange theory, which suggests people evaluate the benefits and costs of social interactions. This helps us understand both altruistic and practical reasons why people participate with nonprofits. My first hypothesis was those with direct relationship to someone supported by the nonprofit will most commonly identify personal connection as their reason for donating or volunteering. My second hypothesis is that altruistic motivation will be a stronger predictor of an individual's reason to donate or volunteer for a nonprofit rather than egoistic motivation. For my methodology, this study was approved by Longwood's IRB. I collected data through a survey distributed by email to individuals who had previously donated or volunteered for a nonprofit, using convenience sampling from 2 nonprofit email lists. It was open from March 10th to the 17th and took approximately 2 to 4 minutes for respondents to complete, and had a total of 14 questions. The total number of valid responses was 72, and you can see the demographics of those participants on the screen. The first hypothesis examined whether individuals who have a direct relationship with someone impacted by the nonprofit's mission were more likely to identify personal connection to the causes of their primary motivation, compared to other reasons like belief in the mission desire to make a difference, or religious or moral values, to name a few. This was compared to those without a direct relationship. An independent samples t-test revealed statistically significant results. Participants with personal connection rated this motivation higher than those without a personal connection. This supports the hypothesis and highlights the importance of direct personal ties in motivating nonprofit engagement. The second hypothesis predicted individuals would be more motivated to donate or volunteer for nonprofit due to altruistic reasons rather than egoistic ones. In summary, this means helping others without expecting personal benefit. An independent samples t-test revealed that those who aligned with altruistic motivations rated the importance of self-benefit lower than those with egoistic motivations. However, the difference was not statistically significant. The first construct was donor relationships. This construct focuses on strength and the nature of participants' relationships with either the nonprofit itself or someone directly affected by the nonprofit's mission. This construct ties directly to hypothesis 1. The hypothesis was supported. Participants with a direct relationship rated personal connection higher than the others. The second construct was motivation for philanthropy. This construct includes the psychological, social, and emotional reasons behind why individuals choose to donate or volunteer. It was also relevant to hypothesis 1, since having a personal connection reflects a deeper value-based motivation. A notable finding from open-ended responses was that 19% of participants selected belief in the cause as their primary motivator. The third construct was brand awareness. This refers to the effectiveness of nonprofit branding and outreach strategies in influencing support. Tested through a post hoc hypothesis, it predicted that those who ranked brand awareness as important would prefer social media as the preferred or more effective outreach method. The hypothesis was not supported. While these participants slightly favored social media, the difference was not statistically significant. The fourth construct was altruistic motivation. This construct centers on helping others while expecting no personal reward. It was tested through hypothesis 2, which predicted altruistic motivation would be a stronger predictor than egoistic motivation. The hypothesis was not supported. Although participants who aligned with altruism ranked self-benefit lower, the difference was not statistically significant. Together, these concepts help paint a fuller picture of what drives nonprofit engagement. The study had a few key limitations. First was the sample size with only 72 responses. Second, there's a lack of consistency and clarity in wording of some of the survey questions, which may have affected how participants interpreted or responded. The third being, the study had a limited scope of motivation types, focusing mainly on altruism versus egoism, without exploring other motivations like collectivism or principalism. Future studies could focus more deeply on a single motivational factor, like altruism or brand awareness, to better understand its specific impact. Also, a larger and more diverse sample size would also improve the reliability of the findings. Lastly, researchers could compare branding strategies and altruistic messaging directly to see which is more effective in motivating nonprofit support. There are two key takeaways I want to leave you with. First, personal connection plays a powerful role in motivating people to support nonprofits. My findings showed that individuals with a direct relationship to someone affected by the nonprofit's causes were significantly more likely to volunteer, highlighting the emotional impact of real-life ties. Second, while altruism was a common theme of participant responses, it didn't stand out statistically as a stronger indicator than egoism in this study. This suggests that motivation is complex and often influenced by a mix of internal values and external factors. In closing, this research shows that understanding motivation, especially personal connection, is key to helping nonprofits engage and retain supporters. Thank you.
there's no way to slow it down. We're all dreamers, dreaming of the good life, but there's nothing that nice on the cards for us. It's alright though, 'cause we can have a good time, and we don't worry if it's dangerous. So take this ride and hold on tight. We're gonna live forever now, and side by side, we don't need light. We're gonna live forever now. You feel that touch and all the love, it makes us live forever now. We don't look up, we rise above. We're gonna live forever now. We're gonna live forever now. We've come so far, but it wasn't without a fight. We share these scars, but they won't keep us out of sight. We're all dreamers, dreaming of the good life, but there's nothing that nice on the cards for us. It's alright though, 'cause we can have a good time, and we don't worry if it's dangerous. So take this ride and hold on tight. We're gonna live forever now, and side by side, we don't need light.
Hello, my name is Dalton Moore,
I'm Caden Flessner.
and today our research topic is on genre, and more specifically, video game genre and the nebulous nature of them. We decided to talk about this is because we really like video games, and especially me, I admire the art form of video games a lot. And within the video game community, there's a lot of discussion about genre, whether it's good to classify a game as a certain genre, or if the classification itself is even good.
The research that we did was what video game genre had the most playtime and the biggest dense player. Our research paper was about a survey, a survey based on players and on the quantitative research. The theory used was the genre theory. We went through this genre because it's an abstract classification system that is determined by and also serves and informs people based on an artifact. A specific media artifact is determined by the public, isn't set in stone. The hypothesis if someone is involved in a big, strong community, they would then most likely be in a multiplayer genre as the favorite. For example, we have GTA, Madden, we have like the online games you get to play with your friends. Our second hypothesis is if a gamer plays on a PC, then the trending number of games becomes cheaper due to the variety of the genre. Our methodology. The procedures include a survey that will range from a 6-minute survey with 11 questions. Next is the participants. We had a total of 190, with only 99 being more useful. We could only use it because now the demographics we used online communities like Reddit, Discord, and Instagram. For results, hypothesis 1 was significant because gamers that are involved in a strong community will have more multiplayer games as the genre. Hypothesis 2 was not significant because gamers use PC rather than using consoles due to the variety of genres that are on there.
The first construct we looked into was accessibility to technology and resources. The types of technology that is accessible to gamers can have an effect on their genre and preference. For instance, you got internet access to something that's very important, income, and even just whether there's a store near you that has the stuff that you're looking for. And what we found from looking into this is that most participants, they mainly play PC. The second construct we looked into was community. A strong community can have an impact on a gamer's gaming experience. For instance, playing an MMO, partying up with people, or maybe you're in a squad in Fortnite. It's something that can have an impact on you. And we found that about half, 56% to be exact, of participants report that a video game community does indeed have an impact on them. The next construct we looked into was short-term and long-term. Basically, different genres in video games make use of these reward strategies to varying degrees. Whether it be spinning a wheel on a mobile game for gambling, you're getting kills in a first-person shooting game, or you're going on a long quest or solving puzzles. These type of things will give you different amounts of dopamine, and that'll have an impact on what sort of genres you like. And for this, what we found is, well, we overlooked this construct. No hypothesis or questions were asked pertaining to it. And the last and most important of these is genre applied to video games. Video games are a combination of both mechanics and narrative to varying degrees. Mechanics referring to whether it's a platformer, an open world game, first-person shooter, it's how you play the game and how you interact with it. A narrative is like those classic movies and books you read, fantasies, westerns, sci-fis, you name it. These are things that all have genres that video games have. And what I'm getting at is video games are multifaceted experiences. You can't just assign it with one genre. And what we found is that there was a lot of variability in genre preference. The limitations we had was, one of them was PC dominance. A lot of people in our survey took PC. They were PC gamers, and that's due to a variety of reasons. They have regular access to internet access. They have access to the internet, and also they have access to forums, something that console gamers may not have access to. Just because consoles by nature, you don't really need internet for them. Guarded communities was another limitation, because a lot of forums, on their guidelines, they're going to take down the survey that we post. The last limitation was variability in answers. We had a lot of open-ended questions, and due to that, we had so much variability that we couldn't really find any concrete trends. For future research, we would like to look into country demographics, just because that's something we're interested in, seeing what trends are there. We would also like to look into a wider pool of survey takers, just so we can have more accurate research. Around 300 to 500 should do. And we would like to define genres, like, for instance, an RPG, role-playing games. There's a lot of contention on what a role-playing game is, so we want to look into that. Same thing with cozy games.
It's time for key takeaways. Our first key takeaway was 36% of all participants only spend between $40 and $60 on games, while only 24% spend above $60 due to how much more the games get involved in. Our second key takeaway is the participants see that video games, they prioritize the mechanics over its own narrative, because as a gamer myself, that makes sense for how the mechanics are more.
All right, and that is all we have for today. Thank you.
everybody. My name is Bella McCullough, and unfortunately, my partner Alexis High could not be here today, so adjust we must. And today, we will be talking about movie poster design and consumer appeal. So the focus of our research was really to understand why movie posters were used in marketing, and if the design and the elements within it impact desire to watch the film. So a gap in research that we found was there was research conducted looking into consumer recognition of cultural iconography, as well as multimodal element combinations to affect consumer desire, but there was nothing on if there was a combination of that and the reasoning behind it. So we use semiotics theory, which is the idea of signs and symbols creating meaning, and so your cultural recognition will create meaning from that. So we had three hypotheses, our H1, H2, and post hoc hypothesis 1. So we aren't really going to talk about hypothesis 1 today because it proved non-significant. However, hypothesis 2 showed that if a person presented with movie posters showing American culture icons in them, they are more likely to watch the film. As well as if a participant consumes American pop culture, they are more likely to watch a film based on a poster including American pop culture icons. So our first hypothesis used 2 movie posters from the movie It Chapter 2 with different combinations of multimodal elements. Our second hypothesis used a Bad Boys poster featuring Will Smith and Martin Lawrence. So we had a survey with 18 questions, Likert scales, and open-ended questions. Our open-ended questions were used as a qualitative form of measurement as we asked the why of why did they think that way and why would they decide their likelihood on the film. So we got 147 usable responses, ages 18 all the way to mid-90s, any gender identity, as well as international and domestic participants. So as you can see again here, our H2 was significant, but our post-hoc H1 was non-significant. But as we go on, I'll talk about the implications of the non-significance of post-hoc hypothesis 1. So let's talk a little bit about our elements and our constructs from this research. So multimodal elements is the combination of design elements, and it's used to create different posters and marketing for a movie. So think about like a character with like lines around it and typography. That's a multimodal element combination. So we found that color stood out significantly to participants, but it wasn't significant in affecting the desire. Typography is the font size and language used in a poster. So typography didn't impact consumer desire, and very few participants mentioned it within their responses. Movie fandom, the cultural grouping and consumption of a certain film genre or series. So we found this to be significant, with people recognizing the series, recognizing people from the series, especially Will Smith, and we used a poster from Bad Boys, and a lot of our respondents indicated that they were A, a fan of the series, or B, they weren't a fan of the series, and that impacted their responses. Cultural and symbolic codes, this kind of goes back to what we were talking about with semiotics theory. So it impacts the meaning you make out of somebody or an icon. Like example, Will Smith can influence your decision making. So we found using our Likert scales, but as well as our open-ended questions, people did not like Will Smith. And so that impacted their responses. And so it gave us a lot to think about kind of unpacking it. So some of our limitations going off of that is poster genre. We picked It Chapter 2, which is a horror movie for our first hypothesis posters. And that proved to be very limiting because a lot of our responses were impacted by the recognition of the genre, which A, showed that the poster was successful, but B, made people not want to watch it. So we think that possibly impacted our results. Secondly, actor controversy. Will Smith slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars a couple years back, and that severely affected our responses. One of our responses actually included, "I hate Will Smith, F him." So unfortunately, that severely impacted our responses, so we believe that was a limitation. And then finally, question wording. People didn't quite understand the point of our question and what we were trying to get from that question, and that could cause a lot of difficulty in getting the right response, at least with our open-ended questions. But to kind of move on and kind of look on the bright side, we could do more research in actor controversy. So does a controversial actor versus a non-controversial actor impact the results of a study? Genre influence, would somebody's favorite genres impact their influence and their desire to watch a film? And cultural impact. Does being from the United States or from another country impact your likelihood to enjoy a film or to have a desire to watch a film based off of a poster? So to kind of wrap it all up and sum it all up, cultural iconography and fandom are huge factors within movie poster design and marketing. And that's something researchers can use in the future to better understand how to market their films. And so fandom and series influence desire to watch a film, and consumer appeal is built off of cultural identity, who you are and what are your core values. But that's all from us today. Wishing Alexis the best, and thank you.
Can't take for granted where I've been. Went through hell and back again. Scars on my mind, the bruises and skin. I lean on you when times get tough. When they drag me down, you pick me up. So let it all go, give it to me. I wanna hear you scream. Scream out my name. I wanna hear you scream. Like I can't be replaced. I wanna hear you scream. Scream out my name. I need to hear you scream. Like I can't be replaced.
So I've come to the conclusion, just a rotten piece of fruit. So I'll end up dying slowly, rotting away. See, I just want to be able to climb without a fall, to get out of this mazeland and run. Please strike me thunder. Let me get closer to the light. Please strike me thunder. So I can be free. So I've come to the conclusion, I'm just one man amongst thousands. In this world I'll loathe them, sure they'll do fine without me. The chemicals in my head don't work as yours, 'cause every piece of road is a little bit of happiness.
Hello, my name is Isabel. And my name is Michaela. And today we're going to be talking about mental health and self-image on TikTok. So we decided to look into this because we're both on TikTok a lot and also create our own content. So our research gap, we couldn't find a lot of research on the long-term effects on mental health, and also there's not a lot of research on it since TikTok is a relatively new platform. And the theory that we used to look into this was uses and gratifications theory, which explains how and why people actively seek out specific media to satisfy their needs.
Moving on to our hypotheses, all three of our hypotheses stem from prior research as well as our four constructs. These constructs are flow state, support and community, trends and normalization, and shaping our sense of self.
As you can see on the screen, our 3 hypotheses state, our first one says, if a participant uses TikTok frequently, then they might feel more disconnected from reality and their emotions. Our second hypothesis states, if a participant is a creator on TikTok, then they are more easily influenced to fall or conform into trends. And our third hypothesis states, if a participant creates content on TikTok, then they are more likely to struggle with comparison to other content creators. So to conduct our research, we did a survey which took around 4 minutes to complete, and before we sent it out, we did a sample with our class. This survey consists of 12 Likert type questions, and our final sample was 102 after deleting the answers that did not answer all the questions. Our demographics were mostly 73% female and 83% between the ages of 18 and 22. With our 3 hypotheses, our first one was not significant, while our second and the one that we conducted after our survey were both significant. So one of our constructs, like Michaela said, is flow state, which is going into a state of mind where you're constantly doing something you can't get out of it. And with TikTok having a constant flow of media, it's very hard to get out of it. And this relates to our first hypothesis, which the more you go into the flow state, the more you can feel disconnected. Moving on to our second construct, it is support and community. TikTok is known for their algorithms. These algorithms allow users to generate relatable content through their engagement, which often makes users feel a sense of community. Through this, and based upon the algorithm and the state of mind of users, this could potentially be positive or negative. Hypothesis 1 directly relates to this construct. The hypothesis states if a participant uses TikTok more frequently, they might feel a sense of disconnection from reality and their emotions. Through algorithms, TikTok is able to provide their users with their own reality and their own sense of community. Our third construct is shaping our sense of self. TikTok is known for its algorithm, and we've learned that there's a term called algorithmized self because you are creating your own algorithm based on what you like, and this shapes your perception and personality. Our hypothesis that was created after the survey looked into how much people compare themselves to creators, and with this, since it was found significant, you can see that the more that they spend time on TikTok, the more that they're comparing themselves to creators, which will likely lead to them changing their personalities' perceptions. Our last and fourth construct is trends and normalization. Trends are so significant on the platform TikTok. Trends are what drive content creators to stay relevant on the app and keep their users up to date on what's going on. Through this, trends impact their users and negatively with excessive use. Our second hypothesis directly relates to this construct. It states if a participant is a creator on TikTok, then they are more easily to fall or conform into trends. We found this to be significant, and along with this, we also found that our third hypothesis also had significant relation. Our hypothesis compares content creators and levels of comparison that they struggle with. So for our limitations, we did have a short answer asking our survey participants to ask if they created content on TikTok and why they did it. But due to how the survey was set up, it was only shown to one person, and so we had to delete that question. Our second limitation was demographics. As you heard Michaela and I talk before, it was majority female and between the ages of 18 to 22, and also majority white. Lastly, our questions could be interpreted differently since some of them were worded a little bit vague, or people could just look into them differently, so we needed questions to expand on that. For future research, we recommend gathering a more diverse sample size. As Isabel said, most of our participants were white females aging 18 to 22. So just expanding on that, our second recommendation for future research is comparing other social media platforms. So this just means comparing TikTok against other social media platforms such as Instagram Reels or Facebook Reels, etc. And our third recommendation for future research is long-term studies that track mental health and self-image. Lastly, our two key takeaways stem from our two significant hypotheses. Our first key takeaway says the more a user on TikTok engages with content, the more likely they are to conform into trends. And our second key takeaway is TikTok users who create content have higher levels of comparison. Thank you for listening.
Great job, Isabel and Michaela here. Way to be our closers, our Mariano Riveras, if you will, here. So, Dr. Hosterman, what a great job I think all our students did today. What are your kind of takeaways?
You know, they did a fantastic job. They were on time. Thank you for being on time. They did a great job overall. Very impressed. Can't wait to see them again online.
And I think one of the cool things, as you saw from the variety of topics today, right? We had pieces on NFL fandom. We had it on TikTok celebrity apologies. We looked at movie posters. We looked at what else?
True crime documentaries.
That's one of the things I love about watching this COMM research is the variety of different topics you can see everyone do here. So it's kind of interesting for everyone to find their own passion and pursue what interests them. So we do have to thank some people behind the scenes. One person in particular, Mr. Jace Frank. Can we cut to Jace here? We know he loves to be on camera there. We want to give Jace a round of applause. It is a multi-day setup to bring an entire studio on location here, and it would not be possible without Jay. So want to make sure we give a special shout out to him. Special shout out to the students behind the scenes for doing all the producer here. Madison's our director for the end here, and continue with a fine line of directors today. So that will wrap up our 2025 live original research presentations here. We'll be back next spring with Dr. Hosterman as chair leading the show.
Oh, the pressure, the pressure.
Thank you all for tuning in.